We call this meeting to order, Budget Committee. If you haven't already, please turn your mics on. And if you haven't already, please turn your phones off. We have any visitors that wish to address the committee, you may do so at this time. You will have 3 minutes.
My name's Eddie Cox, 1804 Boating Ridge Mountain. I got two things I'd like to say. One's 911. I don't believe we're asking too much what to get. You're just sitting in there, get $15 an hour, just sitting there looking at the screen, and you got 3 shifts and everything. I think that you all better do some thinking on that money and everything. The second one is about the dog catcher. I call him dog catcher, where he's supposed to write tickets. I know he don't want to go to court, because every time he's right to court, he's got to go to court. $10 all he makes and all that. But I mean, you see him up there and riding up and down the road, go to the car wash their cars, and ride up down the road all the time. I'd like to know how many times they have been on a call and check with you all and give you a report, how many times they go out and check on the call. And I don't believe they do go out on the call and check the match and everything. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do we have anyone else that wish to address? If not, I'll call Mayor Britton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. Just want to give you an overview of what we'll be doing tonight and what you can expect, and then we'll get things started. First will be some presentations by some agencies that either have not been funded before or who are asking for more funds, and so they will make their presentations first. Then we'll today or tonight is a decision-making day as far as the committee goes, is some votes on the agency requests, some votes on the capital expenses or the capital requests. We'll have some discussions on the health insurance plan going forward and what we're proposing there, and also on the COLAs, on the cost of living adjustments that is in the proposed budget, as well as a concept that I've put together on to generate some money for paving. And so, Mr. Chairman, that's what we'll do tonight, and anything else you guys want to add to it, and we're ready for the presentations.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. We'll start off tonight with ALPS, Mahon Fritz. If you'll come up, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and I appreciate and humbled every time I get a chance to come up and speak with you folks about the great mission of ALPS. And I recognize a lot of the faces, and I hope all of you know, but I know some of you do and have been by the mission. And for those of you who haven't, I would strongly recommend to stop by and see what a great facility we have and what a great mission we provide to the county. One of the things that, for those of you who don't know, is we serve adults who are unsafe to be left home alone. One of the main questions we get anytime we speak in front of the public is, what does ALPS stand for? And I can tell you back in 1986, the founders came together and realized that there was a need for caregivers for folks with Alzheimer's. So at that time, they designed the program, and it was called Alzheimer's Lakeway Program Services. They quickly realized that there were so many other caregivers out there, so many other diseases that affected adults and made them unsafe to be left home alone. So they shortened the name to ALPS and opened the facility up to any diagnosis. And now we have a broad range of folks that we serve, from Alzheimer's dementia, which is still about 60% of what we serve, to special needs, young adults, stroke victims, cerebral palsy, things of that nature. So we're there for a full day for them, for their caregivers to be able to still live and work in the community and provide a living for their own families while keeping their loved ones home and not institutionalizing them. You know, the last 3 years I know has been tough on everybody, and I know you're getting a lot of requests and a lot of increased requests. And I can tell you for us, like everybody else, the costs have gone up. Costs have been extreme. And in order for us to continue our mission, you know, one of the things we've done for our staff, for our program staff, to keep our mission state-of-the-art and vital and caring for our folks that we serve, is we've had to incur a lot of incentive cost and payroll cost, and almost a 40% increase in our program staff is cost us. The funding that we request from Hamblen County for our folks, 100% of it helps offset our sliding scale. So it costs us approximately $140 for every person that walks through our door for a full day. That's full nursing care, 2 meals, a snack, hydration, safety, security, and a full day of activities. So, but we only charge families between $40 and $80. Our average private pay Hamblen County resident pays $40 a day to come to us. That means we have to make up $100 a day for every individual. 100% of the Hamblen County funding goes to that. And one of the things that I always, one statement I always include in the letter that I send over with our packet to Mayor Britton is, what the county gets back in benefit from our mission is immeasurable, and it truly is. But I can share a story today that happened today that gives an example of that. In the 10 years I've been there as the director and 8 years prior to serving on the board, there's been not one time that I can remember having to call the sheriff's department to do a wellness check on one of our folks. We had to do that today for the first time, 18 years that I've been associated with. So imagine how many wellness checks or elder abuse calls the Hamblen County Sheriff's Department gets and have to go out and service. 18 years, the family we served only one time. And because of that call, we had a gentleman who hadn't eaten all weekend, had messed himself, was covered in feces. We was able to get him to our center, get him cleaned up, get him fed, and get him healthy and back in a better environment. That's what your money means to our mission. And I would love for any of you to ask any questions if you have any for me, please. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Maybe I missed how many people you serve, just like how many normally are there every day?
So on average per day,
Yes, sir.
because we don't mandate a schedule,
Yeah,
we
okay.
meet the needs of the caregivers, so we average about 27 people per day. We're currently serving over 60 families, and 75% of our families are Hamblen County residents.
All right. And United Way helps too?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No, ma'am.
Wow. Okay.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I have a very dear friend, lifelong friend, whose adult son attends ALPS, and they just sing the praises of your association, what you do for him, and he just loves it there.
For many years.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm assuming who you're talking about, but he's a town hero.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody knows him.
Yes, sir.
He's a wonderful young adult.
Yes, sir.
But yes, and I mean that's the kind of thing that just really melts and touches your heart. So we thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I can have a comment as well that my mother-in-law, before she passed, came down with small vessel disease, dementia, but she got to where she could not care for herself, and ALPS was such a joy. It's just like when she first went, it wasn't very reluctant, but at the end of it, it was so helpful and giving her energy, giving her a purpose, giving her new life, and it helped her until she couldn't go. So I see the very
Yep.
value of what ALPS is providing to our community.
And she was helping us learn a little bit of German, too.
There you go. Yeah, she was.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
If you could, please tell us what other fundraising that you do, how you get other funds.
So fundraising is a good point. I mean, we do a huge fundraising campaign throughout the year, from golf tournaments to walk. Our largest fundraiser of the year is our annual Walk to Remember, and it's happened fourth Saturday of every July. It's our 32nd year doing the walk. We have a holiday marketplace and Festival of Trees, which is a very popular event. We turn the center into a Christmas winter wonderland, and people come and bid on the trees. We try to write as many grants as possible.
Good.
We do get some funding from the city. And then my goal since being there as the director is to make it possible for anybody in this community to come to ALPS at as little or zero out of pocket as possible. In doing that, I've been able to get our private pay rate average down to $40 a day. So that's $4 an hour for full health care, because we serve for 10 hours. But we also contract with anybody and everybody that contract with us and pay for our folks to come. So we contract with Tennessee Medicaid, the Choices program. the Veterans Administration. We contract with Granger County Schools. So think in terms of special needs adults who have curricularly graduated. Well, those adults can still go to the school system until age 22. Maybe they graduated at 18. Well, the reality is the teacher needs to focus on the ones who haven't curricularly graduated. So those individuals are there. There's funding for them there, but they don't have all the attention that they did have until before they graduated. So we contract with Granger County Schools, and they send those folks to us for a fun day of activities and socialization. You know, more and more individuals are finding out, doctors, even the Surgeon General came out a few weeks ago and made the announcement of the next pandemic we're facing is social isolation in seniors. Social determinants of health and being able to be socially connected means every bit as much as the medication they take every day.
Anyone else?
Yes, sir. Mahan, and clarify, and maybe I misunderstood, you said that United Way doesn't help at all?
Correct.
Is there a way that they could help, or they just don't? I'm a little lost, because United Way usually helps a lot of our nonprofits, so I didn't know why they didn't help.
It's a long story. The United Way used to give ELP some funding, but about 6 years, I think, 5 years or 6 years ago now, the board of the United Way decided to no longer fund ELPs.
I'm just curious, I don't understand why, but I guess that's not for you. I can call it United Way, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
You
Rich,
probably,
we really, do we have something else?
well, I just wanted to say that when you mentioned Granger, are there surrounding counties that are able to send folks here?
Yes, ma'am. We
Okay.
serve Granger, Cock, Jefferson, Hamblen. We serve part of Hawkins. And then one of our founders' goals was to plant ELPs in other communities.
Yeah.
So in 2017, our facility here, we were actually turning people away. We were on a wait list.
Yeah.
So first we did a $500,000 expansion to this facility. Then we planted a second ALPS. So we now have an ALPS facility in Greenville. But one thing we promised the Greenville community and all those fundraising partnerships, as well as the Hamblen County and Morristown community and all our fundraising partnerships here, dollars raised and donated here stay here the same way it does in Greenville.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am.
No, very good. Anyone else? Mr. Fritz, we thank you. God bless you. Keep going forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
We'll now ask Travis Barbie from Morristown Parks and Recreation.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. This is actually my first time in this building as a recent transplant to the area. What you'll see up here is the budget, same slides that we showed at the city budget meeting. So you're getting the same presentation, essentially. Oop. Didn't know which button to go. All right, side button took it off last time, so. There we go. So, transformational change, maintain the momentum. So the city feels like they've made some significant investments in the last year in recreation with the landing. I know it's not, obviously, it's kind of a polarizing subject, but it's a subject that the city feels they've invested in. So now what are we going to do with parks? So this is where we start this year, and this is rounds out to a significant increase in parks budget this year. Our budget in the letter said we were going to be at 2.5 million, and it really ended up over 3 million. So the city is stepping up, and that doesn't include the capital bond, which I'll talk about in here. So here's some sidewalk improvements that are going to be part of this budget. Transformational investment. So I hope some of you were able to make it out to the Bluegrass Festival. That is the city's new stage up there. We are looking at energizing the green, upgrading the electricity so it is able to host better events. We're looking to upgrade the farmers market with electronic kiosks, which you'll also see on here. So yeah, there's electronic kiosks, more wayfinding signs. We really want to support, your local farmers market. Makes a community where people have these amenities. They don't have to go outside. It shows Morristown's a great place to live, as well as Hamblen County. So Parks and Recreation specifically where we're starting to focus in. There's their top goals. This is the survey. I'm not sure how much of you know that they send out to residents. It tells you where the value is here. So it's one of the second, you got safety and utilities, but it's a very high value importance and quality of life here in Hamblen County. So your survey here just talks about how the Parks and Rec Department is currently viewed by respondents. So we have a pretty high, good, and excellent rating. Of course, we always are striving for better. We've increased our programming this year, and hopefully you will notice. Like currently, we just had Little League championships, home run derbies, championship rings, make the kids feel big time. Brand new bases between the games, fields totally redone. Just creating that flashbulb memory that hopefully one of those kids or all those kids will remember for a long time. Recreation quality, here's how it's kind of been over the past few years. So you see the 2022, we're still very strong. Coming out of the pandemic, I think people started focusing on these opportunities. And our community is growing, and people want to have their kids involved. So special events, obviously you see the stage and some of the downtown area. There's a local fireman there looking crazy. So special events, opportunities. So we still have lots of ground to gain. When you look at the cultural and music activities, the city is lacking. We're trying to add more. Speaking of that, the Juneteenth celebration is next Monday. It'll be downtown on the green in the evening. Great acts. You should come out. It's a great place to gather. Here's a significant upgrade. Nobody likes using porta potties. No one. I've never met anybody. So now we have these portable restrooms which you can roll out of the facility. So it's an upgraded porta potty. It's nicer. We can bring these to all our events now. And actually there'll be a tally ward because it's going through renovations now. And the old bathrooms are being ripped out. So we obviously, you'll see there a new program this year. So that's local kids from this area taking on Greenville. So they traveled down there. They had a special day. We're looking to become, the city that people want their kids to be in the programs. Of course, we have Jolly Park is ongoing, and we have to staff that park. There's no park like that has caretakers in it 8-9 hours a day. 1,200 square feet. The month of May had over 100 bookings. 50 of them were school groups. It is, I get complaints, the bathroom's dirty, there was garbage. It's being loved to death. It is an outdoor amusement park.
Did you say 1,200 square feet?
Mm-hmm. The play area. So the city has decided to make a major investment, and we hope you guys will be a part of that investment in our park facility. So here's an update on Tally Ward. This came out of this year's budget. We have roof repairs, new windows. The building had settled. I think there was new windows put in it 7 or 8 years ago. It broke every one. So currently, masonry expansion. They're cutting expansion joints in the building so we can have windows that don't explode. It's a perk for everyone. In plumbing, right now, our people at camp are having to deal with them being taken out, but it's a trade-off for having a summer camp this year. We didn't want to delay it anymore. And our summer camps, right now, volleyball is going on. It's at capacity, and we allowed a few more to enter. And baseball was at almost capacity last week. This is an improvement going to Tally Ward, those goals have been in there maybe 60 years. They don't lower, they won't get out of the way of volleyball. And our youngest youth, which are our largest number of participants, can't shoot on those goals. So that's one of the little upgrades there that will make that gym accessible to more. And we have 120 basketball teams in the college. That is the only gym that we have full control of. Everybody else, we're a guest. So anything we could do to upgrade Tally Ward is very important to our operations. Wildwood Park here is going to get some attention that it hasn't received in a long time. If you've been to Wildwood Park, the grass is dead all in the middle. And there's sticks in the ground where they've made their own soccer goals. The tennis court that, quite frankly, needs to be torn down, it's got soccer goals in it now. So it is being loved to death by the soccer community, so we are looking at putting an outdoor mini pitch lighted on that park from now on out. You know, it's not a place that I think we would traditionally go. This is what should go there, but that is where the people are using it. So we're going to them. The master plan for Fulton Hill Park, it's getting some considerable upgrades in this budget too. So you'll see bond on there. I believe it tallies at the end. I'll let you know that. I think the bond allocation for parks in this year's budget is $4.4 million. And some of it's in our general budget, so we will be doing close to $5 million in improvements to the park system this year. And a lot of it isn't flashy, like the mini pitch is flashy, but it's irrigation, it's lighting, it's fixing things we have and keeping them at a high level. So update on Fulton Hill, it's getting 2 pavilions, potentially pickleball courts. So there's about to be a significant investment in Fulton Hill Park, which is one of our newer parks. Wayne Hansard Park. It's on the end of town that is rapidly growing. Currently, Wayne Hansard Park has 4 ball fields, baseball, softball fields, disc golf course, and soccer. Currently, we can only use 2 baseball fields at a time, baseball, softball, because the parking won't accommodate it. So in this year, the city has an option to acquire 37 acres of additional parkland at a pre-negotiated price from years ago. And in this year, we're proposing go ahead and executing that option and then adding a gravel parking lot to that in phase 1 of Wayne Hansard improvements. So that park will now essentially become fully functional instead of hamstring all that. There is some talk of some adjacent property that is not in this year's budget, but that is in the talks. And I believe there's a lot more going at parks that can be some business development. Franklin Reno Park. This park, I will say, is probably the heart of the parks system. Thousands of people there on a Tuesday night during baseball. Baseball's going on, softball's going on, soccer's going on, tennis is going on. It is a full park. So in this year's budget, irrigation for our 5 ball fields. There's no irrigation on our ball fields. And we may be one of the few communities that has a major recreation department that doesn't have that. Can't water the grass in the summer. If you want to host tournaments and you come here in July, it could be a dust bowl. So we're looking at upgrading that. We're bringing in lights. And we're going to hopefully get those tarps off the dugout roofs and finally make those things whole and clean. In addition to all this, just in our regular budget, we are redoing the infields of all the fields. We've already done 3 fields, and I was able to squeeze one more load of dirt out of last year's budget, but it is a plan for all of our baseball infields to have their infields redone. Also, we have 2 football fields that are 80 yards. So in the next year, we'll look at combining to 1 full-size field with lighting. parks lighting currently in the facility in the county, but we're looking to change that now. And then we have potential to add 4 pickleball courts to kind of break the peace between the tennis community and the pickleball community are trying to use the same spaces. And we serve the school system, and in the spring when people want to get out, it is a dogfight for that space. Paving drive, this is not going to pave everything around the soccer fields at Barron, but it is going to create some lanes through there, and we can hopefully start to slow down the wash and increase the paving over time so it's not such a flood and mud bottom back there. It's also got the electronic message board at the farmer's market, so that would obviously not be a problem. Florent, a second much-needed entrance to the park, that's in the works right now with the city. Basically, we all know you have to go out by Narita up there, and it's a log jam. Popular restaurant and a bottleneck of a place to get out of the park. So there's no decision on this yet, but it is what the city's exploring, is trying to find a second way out to relieve the traffic. And then there's the big number at the end. This is in capital. This will be in the bond. You know, this is the money that that you, city, are investing outside of the budget this year. So that's our normal operating budget for parks is $2.5 million, and we'll almost have double that in improvements this year. So any funding you guys can contribute, and hopefully we put to great use for us and make a difference in quality of life in our community. And that's it. Unless you have questions.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you for that presentation. So the new movable porta potties y'all own?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you can move them to any of these parks okay. Where's Wildwood Park?
I don't have the address.
Shields Ferry Road.
Shields Ferry Road, yeah, behind Fairview School. out in there.
Thank you, okay. Now that dogfight at Loreno, good gracious, I hope the high schools are winning. I hope the high schools get the courts when they need them.
They do.
Okay,
We have, just in case anybody wants to know, a use agreement with the school system. They use our
Okay.
facilities for free, and then they work with us so we can use their gyms because, as I mentioned, we don't have them.
that sounds like
We
a
both work for free.
good trade, a good trade. Panther has 2 tennis courts, and I think there's some pickleball on them. And, you know, it's awfully flat out there. If you were ever gonna add tennis courts, why, there'd be a spot, wouldn't it?
Panther?
At Panther Park?
That's the state park.
Oh, and but y'all don't have anything to? No. Now, going back, you mentioned Morristown Landing. Are y'all involved with Morristown Landing?
City owns it.
Okay, so you're not,
Parks department, I do not program it, no.
Yes, sir.
We have to work with them for the usage we get.
okay, thank you.
Anyone, Mr. Cutshaw?
Yes, you, very aggressive plan, it looks like. So of this $4.5 million that you already have, or your investment, is that already approved bond issue, or what's the?
Our second reading of the budget is next week.
And this will be a bond issue through the city. So aggressive plan, all this that you presented is what you are intending to do in this coming year.
Now, I think the bond market time, and don't hold me to this because I don't handle going to the bond market for the city, but they will plan on going to bond next summer. So the initial work you'll see, which was probably the lighting, because that's out of our general fund, and some paving for the BMX track, that's out of the general fund. Some of the smaller projects, I think the land acquisition is out of the general fund, but a lot of it's out of the bond. We won't be able to start those projects till the summer. And some will also have to be moved because you can't irrigate the fields while the Little League's playing. So it'll have to be
Right.
summer.
So that brings other questions here. But first, do you have a breakdown of county residents of what you feel that uses the facilities that you're providing?
We do not right now. Now, I have the rec software that I have just purchased for the city. It's already purchased. It will go live before July 1st. That will be part of give us who's city and county resident. We're not charging any different, but it allows us to bring you that number in the future. Now, I've been asked about that since I've been here, and I know they pulled some data back in 2018 and they compiled this last time. And it was close to 70% of the youth participants were county and 50% of the adult participants were county.
And, well, that sounds reasonable, and I mean, it's a valuable commodity, what you provide. I guess that's all I had.
Mr. Walker?
Question, two different questions. One is with Frank Loreno Park.
Yes, sir.
I see that you're putting all this money into football and baseball and pickleball courts and the BMX track. You know, one of the biggest things that have used with our market and area around here is the soccer fields that are in horrible shape. You talk about your baseball fields, our soccer fields, when it rains, they're big mud holes in it, water holes. But there's times that those kids are playing soccer in a dust bowl. But we're more worried about the baseball fields and football fields.
Well, not necessarily more worried, sir. I mean, I'm former college soccer coach. Soccer's my passion. But I will tell you, soccer fields have irrigation already. Soccer fields have Bermuda grass, which allows them to be cut by a real mower. So I will agree they need work, and we're addressing that too. But the things that are further behind them right now that we're saying is the baseball fields today.
I would disagree with you on that. I mean, and that's just opinion of a parent that has dealt with Frank Loreno Park for so long as a soccer field. I mean, we have no bleachers. You have a few bleachers out there, not much, not compared to what we have in the baseball side or the football side. And those fields are used tremendously, not just by AYSO. Our high school uses that field, as well as you talk about going out there on the weekends. When they're not playing, they're constantly being played out there on those fields.
Which I will, one of the complaints I got in the winter was the condition, the holes, the bad spots in the field. So currently right now at Frank Loreno, since AYSO completed their season, we closed 3 of the 4 fields to try to allow that grass to recover. And then anything that's not recovered at the end of those 3 weeks, in our new contract, we will have sod replaced in the dead areas. So it's coming, but we have to manage that asset also. You know, it's grass. You've got to be off it. The complaints I received were in the winter, and I can't grow grass or amend the fields in. Right now is the chance where we can start to get ahead on the soccer fields through timed closing. Will they be perfect? No, but I think that's a good first step. And also the city is looking at acquiring the goals so we can add more soccer programming, because right now if I wanted to run a soccer camp as recreation department, I don't have the facilities to do it. I don't own it. AYSO owns it. Lakeway Soccer Association owns it. And it's the same when we let the school use it. AYSO is technically letting them use it. I could promise you, like, the needs of the park system, they're not all addressed in this. You can't defer things for 25 years. You know, a lot of communities can build a facility, but the maintenance, consistent maintenance is where you change things. And that's also costly, because a lot of times you don't get the maintenance added in your budget when you add a new facility.
Now, the other question I've got with Merchants of Green, Farmers Market, and I think it's great that you're doing all these different things there. But how about the impact to the businesses around it? The parking issue that it caused, the increase in parking problems, and those things. Have we looked into any of that, resolutions for that? Because some of these facilities that you're using down there, when you have these things, it's bottlenecking the general business around there. Because people are parking in everywhere and taking away from their business to come to your,
Well, I will try to address that. I don't believe the city's got extra parking there. I know the city acquired the old lumberyard lot, but I don't know that that's close enough to offset parking there. And I know some of those events are managed by Chamber of Commerce, your Friday night events, the craft beer festival. They're not park and rec events.
Right.
But I know we did have the Bluegrass Festival, and we do have a few other things there. Now, for me as a Parks Department, it's like pet sense. You know, obviously it's right there. It's heavily impacted. So before we had our event this year, we said, come set up a free booth, be part of the day. Now, they were receptive to it. I can't say every business is. Several businesses said, hey, you're in our parking spaces, even though I think they were public parking spaces, but they're still utilized by their customers a lot. So we moved. I mean, as the Parks Department, I want partners, not people that we have negative relationships. It would never benefit the Parks Department to be a bad neighbor. But I can see how there's impact on that facility, and I don't know that the city currently has other plans to add parking.
Can you explain the ownership of the fields that you described there a while ago?
Which fields?
Soccer fields?
Ownership of them?
Yeah.
The city owns them.
Okay. You was talking about the soccer associations?
And
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Okay, so AYSO is a parent volunteer organization that runs the soccer program out of the city's fields.
So they don't contribute anything to the upkeep of the fields?
Because I haven't been here, you know, I came in October. I've heard they've helped in the past, but I don't have definitive. And in Tool this year, they had like a $300 a year fee to use the fields. Now, I changed that with a team fee. So now for each team they register, it's $50 that they pay the rec department. And then we use that towards the fields. But right now I said, let's trade that because that's an economic hit that they weren't quite expecting to take, and we will offset that to the purchasing of your goals. That way the city starts to own the goals, and then I can start showing how booked the field is so we can continue to put more investments back into all our fields. And that's the same way at Lakeway, at Zolly Soccer Park over there.
Any other questions? I will mention one thing, and I think it's really important. I know we've talked about this before. You bring up Parks and Rec, and it's softball, baseball, football, soccer, basketball, but there's so much more to that. I mean, it's the walking trails, the disc golf. It goes on and on and on. The Bluegrass Festival, which was a smash hit. I mean, it's there's something there for every resident in Morristown and Hamblen County. So we commend your efforts, Travis. Thank you very much. Now we'll move to the Morristown Composite Squadron, Dick Curran. Is there anyone here with them? Okay. We'll move down to the Morristown Task Force for Diversity, Alpha Alexander and Eileen Bowers. Well, I had both names down here, so however y'all want to work it out, it's up to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alpha Alexander, and this is Eileen Bowers. The Morristown Task Force on Diversity is a nonprofit organization. We have been in this community for 14 years. Our theme and mission is unity in the community. I originated with Sammy Burrell when she was mayor out of the city office, and then when she decided not to run for her second term, we were under the Rose Center, and then we decided eventually we applied for 501c and was approved. So we are a nonprofit organization. I would have to say there's two big signature events that we do. The Martin Luther King Breakfast that is held every year for the past 14 years, as well as the June 19th event. And if you go home tonight on the Citizen Tribune paper, you'll read about the June 19th event that will be held here on Monday, and this will be our 4th year. I am very pleased to say that we're having Chris Blue will be performing at that event, as well as some other individuals that will be performing. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the Sherrill Sisters. They will be singing the gospel. So that event really attracts. Last year, we had over 1,000 people attend that event, and I hope it will definitely continue to grow. We started the June 19th event because of your mayor, Bill Britton. He helped support Keisha Monroe to do it out at the park, Cherokee Park, and then we decided eventually to move it into the city for it to be held. So last year and this year, we're going to have it in the city itself. We have other events that we have supported. Really, this past Memorial Day, we worked with the Rock of Ages Church in terms of the cemetery in front of that church to identify. We have indicated there's over 800 bodies in that cemetery. Out of that were 84 graves that we cleaned and honored with flags of the black veterans that are buried in that cemetery. Rock of Ages Church also owns a cemetery adjacent to the Fulton Hill Park. And there are, as I understand, Civil War veterans. So we hope to continue to be able to do some additional work on identification of that cemetery. My own parents are buried there. It used to be what they called the Black Cemetery. And so there's a huge amount of African Americans. My grandfather was Cherokee Indian. He's buried there. Most of my family is buried there. So it's a very historical park, and it really says something about the community of how they treat their dead. I think that's extremely important. We have done other events. We've brought Shamika Hoskala so she could be exposed to the girls at Girls Incorporated. We've had a chance to bring Donna Lopiano to the community, who is probably one of the most renowned person in women's athletics, to come to this community to speak. We've brought Joanne Bland, Joan Browning, the Freedom Rider. So in terms of contribution and exposure to our city and county residents, I think over the years, our track record is, I think, very, very solid. Eileen, want to contribute? Okay. I was under the anticipation it was 3 minutes, so that's my 3 minutes, and I would like to be available to answer any questions that anybody has. By the way, we were one of the original funders for Ola Lakeway. So you should know that. When they started their festivals that they held at Rose Center. And now their festival In fact, Betsy called me today. She's looking for funding for that. They are averaging over 5,000 people that are coming to the community for their festival. So it's planting the seeds and seeing different aspects growing. The essay contest that we have at the Martin Luther King event, we expanded it, and now we also are having an art contest for the kids in the public schools. And I'll just tell you a real short story. A young lady that won the essay contest from Hillcrest Elementary, she donated, and they used to get $100, now it's $200. She donated her money to pay off of the kids at her school at Hillcrest that had a bill on their lunch bill. And unfortunately, she went to I think down in Knoxville to the hospital, get her tonsils out, and apparently they nicked some artery, and she is in very, very bad shape. But that's the character when we look at Martin Luther King and the young lady, she wrote an excellent essay that you could see by her donating her money back to her classmates to pay off their bill. So that's what we're trying to do for the community, unity in the community.
What other fundraisers do you have?
Our signature event is Martin Luther King, and I really, we have Color Tech that was a corporate sponsor, and so what you would call a major sponsor, and then we have individual organizations that paid for tables. And so the ultimate goal, I think that Martin Luther King breakfast really should be as accessible if someone wants to attend at a very economical amount. So if you look at it, we really, the organization, volunteer organization, and the monies that we receive, we really try to expend on projects, and we really don't have a very high budget. So we don't do a direct fundraiser. The other thing, people have donated money. We have a reserve account for a scholarship one day that we want to do for East and West High School. And that's about it.
Do you have any information that you could present, you know, maybe get to the commissioners at some point in the next day or two?
Yes, I can. We have a website, and it in fact, we have a video that tells the whole long history of the organization that was developed here in the community.
I was thinking more along the financial part of it.
Yes, Perky, Compton, there are our accountants.
Okay, if you could get that to us, I think we'd appreciate that.
Okay. all
Okay.
right.
Any other questions, anyone?
I have one.
Yes.
Could you submit a copy of your budget for the year to us, please?
Yes, of what, for the 2023, 24?
Yes, ma'am. That would
Yes.
give us an idea of how you spend your money
Yes,
and what you use it for.
yes. We can give you all the financial records. Yeah. By the way, my treasurer is critically ill, but I will get you that information. I have the documentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? Thank you, ladies. Good luck to you.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our presentations. We have some folks here that are available. If we have any questions for them, Shelley Shropshire, if you want to come up. This is with the Morristown Hamblen Library. If anyone has any questions. Oh, okay. Thank you. Very good. Yes. Ms. Shropshire, do you want to say anything, or do you have any?
I do want to say, I appreciate all that you've done for the library over the years. We just are thankful for what we have been able to do with the funding that we get from both bodies.
Relax.
I know it. I'm nervous.
Anyone have any questions?
Uh,
Yeah, Ms. Howell.
Yes, just that I had taken my grandchildren when you had the, when Todd the weatherman came, and then when the raccoons and all the different animals that she thought were cute, but anyway, and she brought them, and that was fascinating for them. And then I took a class and loved it. So just appreciate what y'all do.
Todd was a big hit with the women.
Well, he's as good as he looks and as real as can be, so.
But the children enjoyed him too. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, learning about weather is so much fun anyway.
Yes.
And we got to display all our books and everything. He was just a real gentleman
Yes,
and great for the kids.
yes.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
The additional funding that we're requesting is for a 5% COLA increase for employees and for a 5% increase in our health insurance that's just going up. But we also are asking for additional money for databases to be able to bridge the gap that the math, children are needing in math to learn more over the summer, and other databases that we have that help children, just resources for school, when they're in school and when they're out. And so those are very expensive, but we've been able to get several great prices for like Newsbank, but we really want to look into a math or a homework help database for children in our area. So the $10,000 that I put in for databases is a new line item. But I did take some of the money from our material expenses because we've been using that to purchase the databases that we need. That children are looking into computers more for the access that they need for school help, and they can't always make it to the library, so this is a great resource to have for them.
Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recovery Court, Mental Health Court, Mr. Penny Knight.
Good evening. Thank you. Apologize I wasn't here last week. Was there any questions that already been presented? Has it already been presented?
I'm sorry, say
Has the budget already been presented?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know if you have questions for me?
I have several. First question, last time you were here, you told us you had some on level 4. Do you still have some on level 4, or have they graduated?
We have one graduate in April, and we have 8 in level 5. We're on track to graduate 10 or 12 people in October.
Have you worked on any of your rules at all for those folks?
Any of our what?
Rules. Last time you were here a year ago, I had contacted Judge Boniface, and for lack of a nicer thing, the information she sent me was not, it was generic. In a sense, she told me that they didn't have anybody on level 4 at all at that time when I spoke with her, so I was just curious if anything had changed.
Yes, well, when we developed our program, there were 5 phases. So there's different rules for each phase. We a year ago, didn't have anybody in phase 4, no ma'am.
Okay.
We didn't have anybody there yet. There's a big article in the Tribune with our graduate in April,
Okay.
our first one.
So things are going well.
Yes, we actually currently have 32 people in our program. We have a waiting list of about 12 to 15. We're trying to get through the criminal court process for recovery court.
What's your maximum amount?
50 to 75, depending on what phase they're in.
Right.
We're real heavy in phase 1 and 2 and 4 and 5. We're kind of only have a couple of people right there in the middle of 3.
Explain the phases, please.
Phase
I may have
1
missed
is when
that somewhere, I guess.
So phase 1, they start that when they get out of jail. We have very few people who start in the community. They're usually coming to us straight from jail. And it is a minimum of 60 days. And to apply, there's rules for phase one that they have to, there's conditions that they have to complete to apply for phase two, which includes a minimum of staying sober for 30 days during the 60 days. The phases after phase one are a minimum of 90 days in time. And we've only had one participant rewarded being allowed to apply early for a phase. Out of the 44 we've taken in, we've only had that happen once. Phase one is house arrest. They're getting acclimated, starting treatment. We usually don't let them out of jail till their first day of treatment. We don't like letting them out and just waiting for appointments. So we usually have all that set up for them. And by phase 5, so you got house arrest. Phase 2 is a 7 p.m. curfew, 3-8. Phase 4, 9. And the judge just rewarded everybody at phase 5 with a 10 o'clock curfew. So, and then the same thing, phase 1, 2, and 3, you come to court every week. And phase 3 and 4, you can come every other week. The judge will often sanction people in phase 3 or 4 coming back to court every week. That's a sanction she uses instead of using jail a lot. And by phase 5, you're only coming to court once a month.
Good. What's the, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
what is the, and may sound like a silly question, but
No silly question.
other than, thank you, other than the obvious, of getting your life straight, what benefit, they graduate from this program, what is their benefit to the individual?
They're not in prison.
Okay.
Generally, they have to have a minimum, if you remember, a 2-year sentence.
Right.
Time left on your sentence to do our program. And, but a lot of our people easily have 8. We've had somebody 25 to 30 years left on their sentence.
And if they complete this program, that releases them from prison?
They're finished the rest of their sentence on probation.
Yes.
So when they complete our program, they go back in front of their sentencing judge. Right now, that's Judge Duggar and Judge Pearson, and they'll either leave them on probation. I guess they could suspend it. I mean, that's still all new. I guess it depends on how close they're done. Maybe if they'd paid all their court costs off and they had a short time left. So
Some real incentives there. Absolutely, yeah.
our recent graduate, she just got her driver's license, first time ever. She's in her 40s.
Very good.
We've had 2 or 3 get high sits. Everybody's working.
Outstanding.
Question, do you have any incentives to allow them to take extra training at TAC or whatever?
At TCAT, yes, ma'am. We actually have 2 students at TCAT. We do, and we have somebody in the automotive and somebody in welding.
Very good. Ms. Howell, did you have a question?
Well, yes, sir, thank you. So when they finish, like this graduate, now how far out do y'all follow up with this person?
So that was a question I asked the state this year,
Okay.
because we were having graduates, and I said, well, how do we follow them? Because you're wanting to know for 2 years. That's how they judge success. And I said, how am I supposed to keep up with that for 2 years for the recidiv? And I think they're looking at recidivism.
Yeah.
And so they
You're-
couldn't answer my question.
Okay.
They want me to give them, they want me to report on that, but couldn't answer how,
Yeah.
for me how to do that.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions of Ms. Knight?
What's,
Go ahead, Mr.
I'm sorry.
Brock. Go ahead.
what's the average person? What's your average of people that start your program and finish your program?
Well, so we're a minimum of a 18 to 24 month program, minimum. If everybody phased up at the minimum, would be 18 months. Our first Serena, our first graduate, I think it was 21 months. So that was right on the money. The rest of the people that graduate in October is going to be right at 2 years. So, but I am keeping up with our retention rate,
And
And
that's
right,
maybe
right
what I
now,
was
it's
wondering.
75%
So 75% of the people are
that start
staying,
the program are still in it.
are still in.
Yes,
And if they drop out of the program, they're back in jail.
yes.
Some super incentive right there from my perspective.
And they can't do this program more than one time.
Not on the same charge. So if somebody's terminated from our program and they want to reapply, they can't on the same charge. They would have to have received a new charge. That's in our policies and procedures.
I
And a
think,
lot of people, honestly, I'll just tell you, probably the worst success rate are our people in their 20s that do our program. The higher success rate is probably pushing 40 and up. So the younger people, if they aren't successful the first time and they're still down the wrong track, it opens the door for them to try it again.
I think
They
it's in,
try.
excuse me, Kyle.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead, and I didn't go through the chairman either.
Can they try it multiple times? So is there, get out of it, get another charge, get back in your program, get out of it, get another charge, get back in your program?
By policy and procedure, they can.
Okay.
It is up to the sentencing judge to approve
Right.
them to come.
I mean, I think it's a great program, and I see it, you know, when we look at the structure, it's hard for most of them to get that second chance. And a lot of them feel like nobody's gonna give them that opportunity, because I'm sure you have hard trouble finding people to hire them because of their backgrounds or finding a job. And like you said, the girl, 40 years old, never had a driver's license. Okay, I mean, I went through that same similar thing with one of my employees. She couldn't understand why somebody would believe in her when nobody else would. And I think that's the hardest part of it is, when everybody else has give up, why are you giving them not opportunity?
And that is the big struggle for a lot of our people when they start the program. And, you know, Chad's there every week. He can tell you the same thing. A lot of them, they're triggered walking through the front door over there. Because, well, one, they're not in shackles or orange. And it takes them a few weeks to loosen up and get used to, you know, court being a little different. But that is the number one thing. It's easy for us because obviously the team thinks everybody, you know, deserves a second chance, and we're willing to work with everybody. And but most of the people in their lives that surround them, they've already cut those ties, and so most of our participants are very appreciative and just can't believe the level of support they have.
Mr. Cutshaw, yes?
Yes, I'd just like to comment that these efforts are immeasurable in our community. We talk about drug addiction and the effects it's had on our community. Just saving one keeps them out of jail and makes a productive line going forward. I mean, it's immeasurable, I think, what happens here. The needs that they have, if you've ever been touched by addiction in your family and you've seen the destruction that it causes, and for these folks to have an opportunity to grow from that, it's immeasurable, folks. And we talk about drug addiction and want to help. Well, this is our opportunity to put something to it.
And I'll tell you, I like numbers, and I know the proposed budget for the recovery court, we're asking for an increase this year. But when you divide that, say we go on the low end and we're just serving 40 people. Our budget's only spending $325 to $350 a month per person. The jail can't house them for that. So that's a big number. And of that money, the majority of that's coming from the state grant. So it's definitely a good investment for Hamblen County, for sure, for dollars spent in return.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Ms. Knight, we thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. We've got the keys to the house. We'll everybody come to the open house when the Recovery Support Services opens that.
Are you gonna do the renovations and everything, or?
I'm not sure. Dr. Sodnia, and they've kind of taken the lead on that because we're busy here. And I don't think a whole lot has to be done. I think that the
roof, maybe?
seller had to
Yeah.
do several of those things before we purchased, if I remember just conversations.
Good.
So I'm not sure. We're hoping to have it open surely in 30 to 90 days.
Let us know.
Okay?
Thank you. Do we have anyone from the Humane Society? Okay,
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Bayer?
Chairman, if, I've asked some representatives from the Humane Society come and talk to you a little about, we've mentioned in a couple of budget sessions about the animal shelter. We contract with the Humane Society to provide the shelter services, and about how the shelter is basically too small for our community. And so that's why in the budget proposal that I have those dollars, $100,000 donation and then a $100,000 match for any money that the Humane Society would raise for an expansion to their shelter. And so I've asked them to come and the money that's in the budget proposal, it came from me. It was my initiative. They didn't necessarily ask for it, although we had I had a conversation with the director of the shelter. It's been about a year ago, and we discussed the needs and the long-term future of the shelter, and it was pretty obvious. And so that's why I included it in this year's proposal. But we've got some folks here if you guys have any questions.
You may come up. When you do, please introduce yourselves. I don't have any names to go with that, so. Hello.
My name is Lori Hotel. I'm the director of the Humane Society.
Oh.
I'm Mary Ann Sharp, the treasurer of the board.
So, just to give you all an idea, I'm not sure how many people have visited the Humane Society, but since we moved into our new building, unfortunately, the number of kennels is actually smaller than our old facility. There's a lot of ways it's improved tremendously, but the space is where we're really struggling. We have 21 adult dog kennels in our entire facility. Just to give you an idea, we had 5 adult dogs come in today only. The need is just greater than we have right now. Once we hold them for their stray hold, they all take up space. If we've had a lot of situations recently, unfortunately, where people who are being incarcerated have animals with them. Those animals come to the shelter. You know, that's not even including the ones that are injured, that come in, that have additional needs. So the need is just incredibly great. I will be honest, it is incredibly hard to find employees who are excited to go in and clean up feces all day. There's no way to, it's just the way it is. Staff retention has been, with what we're able to provide, has been a challenge. We have been working really hard to try to increase those wages. When I started almost 4 years ago, staff was being brought in starting at $9 an hour to do that. We just now, like a month ago, finally got up to 12. It's very, very challenging to have staff members, you know, who are willing to do that. And we're trying not only to provide the community with all of these services, with strays, and we're trying to build up our programs. There's a lot of people, more in record numbers, we are having people who are needing to give up their animals. You know, people who are losing their homes. I mean, they have very valid reasons. We're contracted to take in stray animals and surrenders if we have space. We never have space, and it is heartbreaking to have to turn animals away, because unfortunately, the sad reality of what is happening is they are just going to a street and dumping them. Then not only are they could be a danger to people. They could be, I mean, we've had several who that's happened, then they've gone to get hit by a car. It's an everyday challenge that we're experiencing right now. We are doing our very, very best. We have increased our donations. I think they are almost doubled from the last fiscal year. Our community is supporting us. We're excited about that. We don't have enough space.
Chair, may I have a question? I know that you're asking for money, so, and you have 24 kennels now?
21 adult dog kennels.
Okay, so what's your goal?
Expansion.
How many, I mean,
Yes.
From 21 to what?
I mean, I can dream, but, I mean, it would be amazing to add in at least another 10 kennels. So what we don't have in our facility right now, we have no isolation area. And this is another thing that impacts the community, because if an animal comes in that has a disease such as parvo, and then we have to shut down, we can't help our community for 2 weeks, is what vets recommend.
Wow.
So if we had an isolation area where the strays are coming in and are able to go there, then say one gets sick, it only impacts that one area, and it's not our entire shelter.
So are you looking to build, to move, to?
Originally, there were blueprints done when this building was done. It was supposed to be phase 1. That was only supposed to house cats. We ended up having to rush, go into the building much faster than, you know, what we were prepared to do, is my understanding. I was not the director then. And so we already have blueprints for, you know, ways to expand, exactly where we would add on, things like that I'd be happy to provide. I think I gave Mayor Britton, or I showed them to him, but I don't think I gave a copy.
Do you have an estimated cost of the expansion?
Honestly, I just found out that this was even a possibility a couple days ago. So it's something I am more than happy to go get as soon as I possibly can, but I don't right now.
Sir.
Ms. Howe?
Yes, sir, thank you. A young lady asked me, she asked about working with a vet, and so I knew the vet, and he was a large animal, and I was able to help her get with him. Why don't we, I mean, don't you, I would think the high school or the tech school would say, hey, we've got a vet tech program, and it would be handy if you worked 40 hours for the Humane Society, and, you know, we'll cut a deal, or, I mean, I just think there ought to be some give and take, and say, don't you, everybody? Yeah. And where, you know, there's some high school students who want to go to vet school. Well, a nice place, not really, but a good place to start is, well, here's what happens when we bring dogs in, or cats, or raccoons, or whatever. So, you know, I would hope that we could figure out something about with the tech school or the high school. I don't know if there's a pre-vet at East or West. They've got an ag program, a good one at East. And I don't know, but anyway, something I would think would be worth looking into to get, to me, it's a win-win. Thank you.
We work closely with UT, but we haven't at least this school, so.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
With your expansion that you say you have plans for, how many more kennels, cages, beds, you wanna call it, is that gonna provide for you?
So, I mean, my goal would to be at least, so we have two sides of our shelter. So one side has 11 kennels and one side has 12. Ideally, it would be great to add in one more of those rows of kennels, which would be 11 to 12.
And the isolation, something.
The isolation?
Yes, which that could be de-isolation. Because, I mean, like I said, we had 5 come in just today. You have to hold them at least 72 hours. Those numbers add up very quickly.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more animals being turned over from, say, the city, people in the city, or more in the county?
I would say it's pretty, I mean, animal control is the one who does the, you know, a lot of that part going out into the community.
But I mean, as far as somebody just bringing an animal, dropping it
It's
off.
I would say it's very even. I mean, we get them equally from both.
Is it more older animals or younger animals?
We get, I mean, it truly varies so much. I mean, obviously this time of year, talking about cats, we're getting almost all kittens with, you know, with cats.
I mean, so do you think if, as a Humane Society, one of the biggest problems is neuter and spaying and neuter. And I know we have different organizations that help with that. But the problem is, even for some of those, and I know when you, and I'm an avid, every one of our dogs and cats have come from the Humane Society. Don't need to let my wife and kids go over there because we get more than what we need. And you make us, you know, spay and neuter 'em. Do you think that's something that we need to get into, coming up with a fund for you guys to help with that cost, to get more people to do that?
I mean, it is absolutely a need. We are very fortunate just recently that, you know, Claws and Paws is in our community, which is a low-cost spay and neuter clinic. We are for everybody there, but even they have long wait lists. I would say 95 to 98%, this is, you know, not, I don't have this concretely, but just from what I see, of the animals who come into our facility are unaltered. Almost all of, we do not, I as a director do not let a single animal be adopted from our facility, no matter what, without being spayed or neutered, because it is absolutely a problem. Right now we're hosting, it's not the spay neuter one, but we're hosting a vaccine clinic to try to help the community with that. Very low cost that we're having at our facility on July 1st, but it's an absolute need. And unfortunately, the problem keeps getting, you know.
Well, I mean, and I agree with cats.
Mm-hmm.
The turnaround time for cats is quicker than for dogs.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, and that's a problem. You got 2 cats, they're like rabbits. You got 2, you got 6, you got 8, you got 25 of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, spaying and neutering is huge. There wouldn't be the need to have us if, you know, nearly as much if animals were spayed and neutered, so absolutely.
Anyone else have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, do you want to continue? You want to take a break?
Let's take about a 10-minute break, kind of get our minds cleared here on where we're going.
But there's no,
I'm tired of sitting
me too.
Courtroom cleared out when he
Oh
gave
my
us a break.
God.
I will call the Budget Committee back to order. Got a chance to refresh your mind, read and whatnot. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to go over the documents you should have at your seat. And you should have a spreadsheet, looks like this.
Yeah, I do.
And basically it shows, Amanda put this together, it shows changes from draft 1, the very first budget you got a month ago or so. And then some of these ideas will be presented tonight as well. So, and then at the bottom of the page is the fund balance of that particular fund based on these changes. So, for example, in the first column, first fund to the left, it's Fund 151 debt service. It shows one change, which I'll present tonight, and the fund balance based on the budget that's in your book, and with this change, would end up being 10.8 million at the end of the year. So, and then you go on across, and then Highway 176, and we'll talk about that, would have $1.5 million in it, and then the Highway Department, then sanitation and the general fund. So that just gives you an idea of where we are in this budget process as far as fund balance at the end of next fiscal year, with still some decisions to be made. So second is there's a letter from the city of Morristown, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. And that's an update, a change on the 911 funding. So we'll talk about that. There is also a budget for Fund 176, or the Highway Capital Projects Fund. Highway Capital Projects Fund. We're talking about another bucket here, okay? And so starting this budget process, there was no activity in it. And that's changed with the need for money to pay with. And so we'll talk about that. So you have that with you. And I think that's it. So, or Mr. Chairman, what I'd like for us to do is start making some decisions on, first, we'll talk about the agencies that have asked for more funding. And first, if you will, pull that letter out from the city of Morristown, and we'll talk about the 911 funding. The last time we talked about this, we were looking at an increase of funding of 81,000, let's see, 81,499. Well, let me give you some history on the funding of 911. And I may have covered this previously, but what this deals with is there was in 2017-18, the city of Morristown funded a position at the a telecommunicator position at 911 that was requested by the 911 board. They asked the county to fund one and the city to fund one. And the city funded one, the county did not. And then, so we were, at that time, the MTAS model had already been implemented. So there was an extra $61,000 that the city has been funding ever since then. And so with this increase, this request from 911, that basically the way it works is 911 board says we need X number of dollars. The surcharge is going to supply this much of it. Then the local bodies supply the rest of it, and it's up to the local bodies to decide who pays what. That's from the 911's perspective. Now, from our perspective, from city and county perspective, what we did when we implemented the MTAS model is we determined how to split the local funding for 911. And as I mentioned, half of it's based on population and half of it's based on calls per service. So the last 6 years, this $61,000 that the city has funded that the county has not, the city's just, it's not been included in the MTAS model, in the division. It's been separate. They applied the MTAS model to the bulk of the local contribution, and then the $61,000 was added on top of it. Now, some on city council are wanting the county to catch up, and so the way I countered that was in the last 6 years, we've been taking it on the chin and absorbing a deficit in the health insurance plan for covering library employees. And the library is funded half city, half county. So over the last 5 years, our health insurance plan has lost, let's say, $197,000 to the library's employees, meaning the claims surpassed premiums paid by $197,000. So I approached the city about, okay, you're wanting to catch up. We have this deficit. Let's just put those aside. That's history. And let's add the $61,000 to the MTAS model, and we're even. And so although that's what I presented, this isn't necessarily the response, but I mean, they're saying, yes, we'll do that, but that's what this is. And the bottom chart or table of this letter, that's what they're doing, is adding the $61,000 to the MTAS model calculation. So what that's done is it's raised our contribution increase. Our contribution increased to $109,631. And so, and where it was $81,499. So it's increased at $28,000. So that's why I just wanted to explain that to you and why this letter is in the packet. And this is, I guess, an item still under negotiation, but I wanted to bring it to you. So on your screen, you'll see Hamblen County 911 increases. It would be 109,631 if we funded it fully. And that, of course, that's up to you. But that would be, it'd be 100, instead of 81,000, it'd be 109,000. So questions?
Now, yeah, I have a question. The 911, it comes off of our phone bill.
Part of their
Part.
funding.
Okay, they have some kind of stream of money coming in. But our sheriff department, they don't have, I mean, we are the stream of money.
Correct.
Well, there is a difference. You know, good guys and bad guys pay that phone bill, but we need all the, yeah. Dear me. Okay.
Sir, what about, and I'm sorry if my numbers aren't exact.
Sure.
I think from $14 an hour to $18 an hour, it was, it's approximately 29%, 30% increase. What if we did 15% this year and 15%, or whatever half is, 15% this year and 15% next year?
Now, the 911 board has already given the raise.
That's correct.
So now you could fund, let's say you could fund half of the requested increase this year and half next year, and then they would make up the difference using their reserves.
Correct.
Reserve fund balance. You could do that.
Correct.
You could do that.
Well, we could do half this year, and then we'll see what next year brings.
Yes, yes.
Chairman, may I interject? Just to make sure that I understand Commissioner Ahern's proposal, you're just talking about withholding 15 or half of what the increased value was? of
Yes,
the-
I don't know exact from, but 14 to 18 was almost 30%.
Sure.
So instead of, that was a guesstimate. So instead of giving them 30% this year, we're just going to give them half of that, 15%.
Of this $109,000 increase, Mayor, what portion of that is salary, you think? Is that a possibility to take?
The bulk of it is the result of the
Of the salary
pay stub.
increase, okay. Well, there you have it.
So that'd be about a $55,000.
So we could make a nomination or a motion to fund a portion of that this year, and with the idea, as Chairman Hahn said, to look at it again next year and see where we're at.
No promises, but we'll certainly
Question,
entertain. Yes, sir.
would that satisfy the city as far as that?
Probably not.
In the budget that they voted on last week, and they'll have second reading next week, they've got flat funding. There's no increase. They're waiting on us.
Right.
So my guess is they do what we would do. They do half. That's a guess,
Do we want to vote on this tonight?
please.
Ay, ay, ay.
So we need a motion.
I think you've got a motion.
Do you
I have a
make that
motion.
We have
Yes,
a
sir.
motion of 55,000.
Whatever the half is, so, Mayor,
Can I ask a
It would
question?
be $54,815.50. I just ran that through my head real
Yeah.
quick.
I would amend that to even it out, not.
Do you want to round it up?
That's what I'm getting at, round up.
Round down.
That's a department joke.
I'll have to recalculate exactly what. So we have a motion for 55,000. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Walker seconds.
Did you have a, oh, okay.
Is there any more discussion on it?
Mike, this is your
Are we
turn.
gonna add on to that, though, that this is for this year only, and next year
Well,
we'll
next year's an
reevaluate.
entirely different ballgame.
Okay,
That's an
okay.
understood.
Okay.
They know that up front. Or should. I would hope.
Well, I would have
Mr.
hoped
Chairman.
they understood, I'm sorry,
Let
Mr.
me ask
Chairman.
a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hunt.
I'm concerned about, do they have the money there in the fund balance to make the difference up since they've already gone ahead and paid it?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes. They have 1.2 million.
Okay,
And more than that.
Yeah.
so we're not gonna hurt them, not trying to go back.
Over $2 million.
Yeah.
But they're paying us part of it this month for the health department building.
They're doing fine. We certainly don't want to cut them short.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And otherwise, we would look at it differently, but they're fine.
I think this body, Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think this body would agree the importance of what they provide. Ms. Howe's on that board, we understand this. It was, it's a combination of how this came to be, I think, that did,
Yeah.
you know, that,
Caught everybody.
caught
Yeah.
everybody, and,
Yeah.
obviously, we think our officers need to be.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like to say, we're sitting here and we've been backed into a corner here. And it's not fair to all the other employees in the county to this kind of pay raise. You know, I have a real problem with this.
oh,
The responsibility of that board doing this, I have a real problem with it. I just
Well, I
want that
think
put
that-
on record.
the push was the 6 years of nothing, he kept hammering away at that. But when you see a homemade knife in front of you, you just kind of have to.
Now, this is 911. This
I
is-
understand that,
Okay.
but he doesn't have, they don't, you know, I pay my phone bill every month.
Well,
That
and I
means a
think-
portion goes to them.
I think the problem too with it is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead and finish this out.
No,
I'm sorry,
thank you,
Mr.
sir.
I think the problem with it is too, is the increase. Like we said, we all agree that the jailers and some of them need the increase, but there's all the upper management of this. And that was the thing with 911, you know, not only did the people that they said they were having trouble retaining, which were the people making $14 an hour, but they went ahead and gave a raise to everybody through the whole operation.
Yeah,
And we never got a clear answer.
no, we didn't.
Right, and we
We was
didn't.
asked at least twice, and we never got a clear answer.
You know, and how many people are we actually losing? I mean, we can kind of, you know, we talk about the sheriff's department. He's kind of gave us an idea of how many officers have left last year because of the money situation, or jailers that have left, like we talked about, like you said last week. Then I think, I wouldn't work in that jail for $15 an hour, $17 an hour.
You can't monetize that kind of thing.
No, you can't, but, I mean, but we need to give the raises to the people that need it, not to everybody across the board. Well, we're gonna give our lower end people a raise, so I deserve a raise. You know, we need to get the people that are making under that poverty level above that poverty level. Not the ones that are already there, let's give them a reward.
But what happens sometimes is when you bump these people up.
You get those people right in,
So,
I
I mean,
understand.
that can be the catch-22 there, but I agree with you 100%. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm with Mr. Walker on this. If and I'll use the detective for an example. If they're making 50 to 55,000, they don't need an increase in pay. Well, I mean, considering what the jailers make, if they're the ones that earn their money, no disrespect intended. They have everything from poop thrown on them to, well, urine, to be brutally honest. So that's where the money needs to go. But now you're talking about, let me change faces here. You're talking about 911, and I need to ask the mayor a question with your indulgence.
Sure.
You said they had how much money left for 911? Yeah, in their fund.
They've got, right now, they've got over $2 million in fund balance. And
Well,
then they'll
that's-
pay us 1.1 million.
Will they still have that after they pay what they've agreed to pay as far as the health department? That's my question.
They'll have one, I'm sorry.
Well, they-
You just said that they have $2 million in their fund balance, they're gonna pay us $1 million and change for for the health department, so they're gonna be half of what essentially.
they'll still have-
They're very healthy, even after the 1.1 million. They're
Well,
very
and
healthy.
now they do have renovations that are going to be, I think, a little
Yes.
more expensive than they think. But I like their thinking of, okay, I hope you can keep them that low. But,
Well, also in that, Ms. Howell, that, you know, we all want,
yeah,
maybe all renovations aren't done at the same time.
Good
You-
point.
You know, you do
Good
what you
point.
can,
yeah,
and they are, I mean, they are debt-free,
yes,
you know, and,
Yeah.
and you gotta commend how they've ran their operation.
Right.
It's just how this has all came about that.
yes,
that-
yes, yes.
That kinda, no.
Mr. Harvey?
Commissioner, I think part of the lesson here too is that you don't use fund balance to pay for recurring something.
That they did.
And that they did, and that should not happen.
I agree. Should have waited on the budget process.
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
if I had my druthers, I'd rather give the money to 911 as give it to the animal shelter, okay? Because we need our 911 above all else.
And not give it to what?
The animal shelter.
Well,
Well, that's a different discussion.
Yes, sir, but point taken, we need our 911.
yeah,
If my mother's had a heart
Point
attack
of
and I
order.
need to call, I need an answer.
yeah.
Okay, we squared, we ready to vote on this?
Need to
Want
call-
to do a roll call or?
You need to call the roll on all these.
Read that one more time, what we're voting for.
That's what I want to be
We're,
Yeah, let's restate the motion.
55 or 50? Did you run it off?
okay, we're gonna, yeah, this is a good point.
I think it's gonna just make you-
Their current funding is 187,000 and change. Now, the change was for 109,000 and change. So we're actually funding 55,000, is that correct?
Increase.
Increase.
Increase in the budget by 55,000.
Okay, instead of the 200.
Yeah, it's 187,789 plus 55,000.
So we're going for the whole thing?
I figured that up, and
You're-
you're right.
The motion's for half of the increase, half of the requested increase. The motion is to fund half of the requested increase.
Sir,
So it'll be, what we're voting on is for their budget, is to be $242,789, which is an increase of 55,000. They have requested an increase of 200,000. 100. One on that one, yes. But on that paper we got, wasn't it 200 originally back there?
Well, that's the total from city and
Okay,
county.
thank you.
Yeah.
So we're going to 242,789. Everybody good on that? Okay. Call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Ed McGreen,
No,
Stan Harville,
Aye.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes,
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long, Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Al Walker,
Yes.
Motion passes.
passes.
Mayor?
Okay, next would be the library. The library's requesting total funding of $335,300. That's a $24,300 increase.
now, so, the 24-3 is taking care of, the issue she brought forward was it health insurance and,
Biggest part is paying benefits, and they're part of the county's insurance plan.
Yes.
And there'll be a
yeah,
significant increase in
Yeah.
their cost.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept this increase of $24,300.
Thank you, Mr. Cutshaw. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second. Ms. Ahern? Any questions? Call the roll.
Okay. Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes,
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next is the request from ALPS to increase their funding from $5,000 to $7,000.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Got a motion, Tim Horner, second.
Second.
Who was that, Luke? Mr. Long?
Mr. Long.
Mr. Long. Got a motion to second. We have any discussion on this? Oh, Tim Horner made the motion, Mr. Long made the, he seconded that.
I have just, not a discussion, but a comment. Same as discussion. I asked Mahan the question, why doesn't United Way support them? And he just said they don't. I know why they don't.
I do too.
well, why?
And so ALPS is a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. We need ALPS. I don't know if we can encourage Mahan to go before United Way, and there's rules of United Way. You have to follow the rules to be able to ask for money. I wish he would do that. I mean, we can't make him, but he would get a lot of money from United Way, or more. So his reasons are his personal reasons, and I know those reasons because I work with United Way.
Okay.
So should I comment any further on that? Okay. Okay. But I just wish we could encourage him to go United Way. Anyway.
Now, are we voting for just the 2, or are we
2,000
voting
increase.
the 7?
Dollar increase.
Okay. Okay.
It's a little
Or,
misleading.
Debbie, is it, I know this may put you on the spot, but are these valid reasons?
It's just that there's certain rules. It's not anything that's wrong. Mahan's not doing anything wrong. It's just that if he has an opportunity, if he follow the rules of United Way, he could get more money, but he chooses not to explain to United Way their total incomes or their salaries. That's just a choice that United Way you have to do, and he chooses not to. There are several other nonprofits that do the same. I just wish that he would, he could get more money.
I understand. Yeah.
We certainly think so.
I don't know if it would be just his decision or the board's decision.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's all encompassing there, but.
But anyway, it's just not a bad thing, not a good thing, just a
Right,
comment.
right.
Do we have any other comments or discussion? Okay, let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Yes.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes,
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
12-0, motion passes.
Okay, next is Morristown Parks and Recreation. We currently fund them $300,000. They've requested 500,000. They've done that the last several years. And so it's a $200,000 increase.
Do
They've
I have
asked
a
for the
motion?
same increase every year.
Do I have a motion? Get this on the table. I make a motion. Do we have a second?
Hold on, Chair, you can't do that.
I can't do that.
Not as chair.
Not as chair. I cannot do that. Mr. Huntsville. You're the motion
Motion to what?
to approve this.
To fund it.
Well, you don't take this. We have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
All right, Mr. Cutshaw, it's on the table. We have any discussion or comments?
Oh, hey, Bill, tell them how much the city pays on Park and Rec.
I think he mentioned tonight what their budget's approaching 3 million, I think.
$3 million, we're asking for just $500,000 for,
They're asking us.
I know it, for our part,
Okay.
our part.
And we fund
I think we
300.
get a tremendous benefit from it. And, I mean, when they're doing 3 million, we're doing 500,000. I mean, I think we're getting a good deal, even at that. I remember last year when we came up and we changed it from 500 to 300. Last year and did
That was
that.
5 years ago.
That long ago.
Yeah.
I remember that.
From 200 to 300, yeah.
It's time to kind of, to move up, I
I
think.
guess, Joe, my only comment to that is, right now, because of the Justice Center and the paving and other issues that we have, those would take priority over this right now. I'm not saying this isn't a good thing. It's just we've got other priorities right now. And I don't have a vote. I'm not a commissioner. That's just my thought.
Well, it is a good deal, but also, you know, we bring in, I mean, we educate every child, and we don't say, you city kids sit over here, and you county kids sit over here. And we don't say, you county jail people, you're over here, and you city, we don't. We do it all, and, you know, that's big money, and, but golly, I mean, my kids, my grandkids, we enjoy the parks. And there's the trick of it all, you know, we do, but I agree, we've got paving, we've got, gee.
Is there a possibility, I mean,
To compromise?
yes.
Absolutely.
Go
Yes,
ahead,
no.
sir.
Just make a comment, you know, their operating budget's $2.5 million is what he said, almost approaching 3 million. And they have issued bonds for another almost $4.5 million for improvements.
Mhm.
So, they've got big eyes, you know, to expand, and I understand that, you know, we can participate at some level, but we've got roads that the city people need to drive on in the county that we've got to think about as well. So I don't know where the compromise is, but I'll just make a statement that, you know, we always tend to grow and ask for more and more every year. It's human nature, but sometimes you just have to sit back and say, I can't afford anymore, and have to look at what, you know, does the baby need shoes, or the baby needs food, or what does the baby need right now? So that's
Good
my only
point.
comment.
Good
Mr.
point.
Chairman, may I
Yes,
ask-
ma'am.
May I ask the mayor a question?
Yes.
How much are they getting presently?
300.
300,000? And then they want the additional 200,000? Thank you, sir.
The other
Bring the
point,
light, I think, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
The other point I've got, I love sports and recreation, but the problem is we're sitting here looking at the Justice Center, like you said, roads, and then the city does reap quite a bit of return on this. Like when they have tournament stuff, that money, they come in here and they spend it in the city. So I just think it's a bad time.
It's not I don't think it's a matter of quality, it's a matter of timing.
Oh, yeah.
Is it, may I ask the mayor?
Yes,
Is it appropriate, I mean, this is my first budget, is it appropriate to say No, we have to leave it at 300,000. That was what's budgeted.
Other commissions have done that.
Is that what they did last year? What we did last year?
Yeah, we didn't, we've not increased in several years, Mr. Reed. We
My first
increased
year.
one time, 100,000, we went from 200,000 to 300,000 about 5 years ago. And it's held steady at that. And, all good points, and the Recreation Department does bring, and just as Commissioner Long pointed out, what tourism dollars they do, it does bring in tax dollars. You know, it does bring some revenue to us, back to us, but not like the city. They're building their infrastructure with this. And, I mean, aggressive plan, $4.5 million bonds, that's aggressive. So,
Well, we need to also keep in mind, as a proponent of the rec parks, I'm on that board, so obviously, you know, I see things. It's not just the, you know, revenue generated by tournaments and whatever. I mean, you look at all the parks and all that they offer to just Joe citizen. I mean, it's tremendous what's out there for any of us if we want to participate. Take the athletics out of it, just look at the recreational part of it. So we have that part, and then probably at this point of the registered athletes that play, it's well over 50% of them are county residents. So, you know, you kind of keep that in mind. But, you know, I mean, there's pros and cons to both sides. I think there's a compromise in there, or no compromise at all.
So, that's well taken, and so, they asked for, we did 300,000 last year.
yes, ma'am.
All right, well, maybe we,
Mr. Chairman, can we make an amendment to the,
yeah.
Please do.
to
Yes.
make it at the funding the same level at 300? Is that,
Is that your?
I mean, is that
And not go the extra 200.
not go the extra 200, just to maintain
What if you went 350?
300?
Make that proposal.
So I'll make a motion that we make it at 300.
Got a motion? by Mr.
Hold on
Richardson,
just a second.
second by Mr. Klein. Yes.
Okay, so this is for an amendment to our original motion of Mr.
Amendment
Huntsman,
to make it
and
at
I
300.
seconded to get this on the table, and now we're making an amendment to reduce that
Based on the
to current
discussion.
funding.
Based on the
Yeah.
discussion, we've amended it to
What
300,000.
is the motion then?
The motion is that we're going to keep it at 300,000.
No increase.
Okay.
Motion is no increase and leave it the same funding level.
Would it be simpler if we tabled the first motion?
I agree.
And then made a motion to,
Well, I think where we're at, I think, I mean, we can do that if we want to, I suppose, but I think what we're looking at is just status quo as is.
Yeah, to the mayor's point, it would be, we'll get confused on yes and no's. We need to retract our first motion, I think, if Mr. Huntsman would do so.
Can we retract the first motion then? and-
Yes, it would make it so
And
simple.
go ahead and just leave it at 300 then?
So we're going to retract the first motion, and there will be no increase in the budget for Parks and Recreation.
And Mr. Richardson and Mr. Long have motioned and seconded that.
We have that, don't we? Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion, Mr. Horn?
That was a pretty big wish list
Yeah.
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 to come out, and I don't necessarily think it all has to be done this next year.
No, and like I say, being on the board, I understand where we've been negligent. I say we, but, you know, it's been neglected for the last few years as far as some of these things have kind of snowballed, and it's caught up to them. And Travis and I have discussed this a couple of times. I think he understands probably as well as anybody that, you know, we'll do the best we can, just like the city, but it's not gonna happen overnight.
Right. Chairman, if you could take that to your board meeting, it's more about timing than it is.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, along with Mr. Horner, $4.5 million is about 15 miles of roads for us. If we had that money to use, that's about 15 miles of road, plus or minus. So it's hard for us to, you know, it's just, we have more pressing needs.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree.
That's
I'm on
all
that
I-
board, but I agree with you. Okay. Anyone else? Let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes, to leave it at 300,000.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes 12. Yay.
Okay, next is, it's not on your screen, I just caught it. The McNabb Center has requested a $500 increase. We fund them $5,500. It increased to $6,000 for alcohol and drug assessments that they do for the court system.
Motion to approve that $500 increase.
I'll second.
Any questions?
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
just a comment. You're going to tell us when we need red ink around here, right? Yes. Okay, because it's still black and I'm getting nervous. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, next are the two agencies that have never been funded before. The Task Force for Diversity has requested $10,000.
We have a motion.
Right here, Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Mr. Cutshaw makes a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Mr. Harville makes a second. We're open for discussion.
I just know Dr. Alexander from the tennis group, and she does an awful lot of grants, and she's well-connected, and from the sheriff, I have come to admire the folks who have grants and who go out and seek funding. Wow, wow, wow. Kudos to you all, and Alpha usually does, so this is, you know, if y'all, I just don't know this much about that project, so.
Anyone else have any questions?
I know they do a lot of, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, go ahead.
We have actually, we, HCXL, that I'm a part of, have worked with them through their art projects and some different things.
Good, okay.
They do a tremendous amount of good, and are just a good community member. And I think there's somebody that we should definitely support.
We needed to hear that, thank you.
One observation. Now, if you check your summary sheet, now this $10,000 exceeds some agencies that we funded for a long time.
I just don't think we have enough financial information from them. I don't.
Amanda, do we have that, right?
I've emailed it to you.
You've emailed it to
It's been in
everybody.
here after she spoke, so it's.
All right, well, should we make an amendment to half it? I mean, I need, whatever you tell us.
First, to make this simpler, if that's where we're headed, I will rescind my motion and let discussion take place as to the level.
Okay. The original motion has been rescinded at $10,000. Do we have a motion or a suggestion of another funding?
Based on the others, what do you think about this?
I think 5 would be fair.
It would be good.
I make a motion for $5,000.
I'll second
Ms.
that.
Ahern makes a motion for 5,000.
Rodney?
Mr. Long, second that motion for $5,000. Any discussion on that? Okay, let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes 5,000.
Thank you.
And next is the Morristown Composite Squadron, which is the Civil Air Patrol teams. They did not come, and we contacted them.
Twice.
So what is it? Oh, okay. That,
They work with teenagers
oh.
on aeronautic type things, but I don't have enough information.
I'll make the motion we pass and let them come to us to provide information before we fund.
I'll second that.
That's good.
Got a motion by Mr. Cutshaw, second by Mr. Richardson, to pass the funding of Morristown Composite Squadron.
And, you know, if they come to us, then at a later date, maybe we can do something, but with little or no information.
Anyone else have anything to add?
It's in the nonprofit binder.
Well-
We'll send you the financial information they submitted.
Call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
No, it's not because
Next is capital requests for capital projects. There is one new one that is not in your budget book. We have included it on this spreadsheet. If you look down next to last, and that's the architect for the new health department. And some of that will be reimbursed by our grant, but we don't have that reflected on the revenue side. But we need to budget it, or we'll have to come back and do a budget amendment later.
How much are you expecting from the grant?
It won't be all of this, it'll be some of it.
You don't have any idea?
So the first item is the maintenance workshop, which is concrete pad with a metal building on it over at the Hale House for the maintenance department to do their welding and their fabricating and do their work that they can't do in the house.
How big of a building is that?
I just don't know.
Sure. Can we take these one at a time?
You want to take these one at a time, or you want to go through them and vote them all at once?
I'd take them one at a time.
Need a motion on this?
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Mr. Cutshaw,
I'll
a
second.
second from Mr. Huntsman.
Mr. Walker, I've got that, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Do we have any discussion? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
is it, you said it's a metal building, just a shell on a concrete pad?
Yeah, now we have to have, because we're gonna add electricity to it,
Right, yeah.
then we've gotta have architectural plans. So that adds $5,000 to the project.
Water. You have water too, right?
Yes.
What's the Hale House for?
It's right across the street.
Yeah.
It's, right now, we're using it for maintenance, mostly storage,
Okay, for,
the whole county.
oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? Let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item are vehicles, 4 vehicles, one for a sheriff's department detective, the assessor's office, the community service, and animal control. Let's see, the community service vehicle will start to be used by recovery court. The other vehicles, Sheriff, on your detectives, would that vehicle be surplus, or would it go
No,
to?
that was for the extra position we got.
Right. So the vehicle she's using now?
Yes.
Would it be-
No, we would be purchasing a new vehicle.
Right, but I mean, but she's got one she's using now.
Correct.
Okay, what happens to that vehicle?
That is the vehicle that we use as a department for the civilian staff or whoever, an extra vehicle for them to go to school in that we've had. It's a 2015 model Explorer.
I know the assessor's vehicle will be surplused, the animal control's vehicle will be surplused, the community service vehicle will be repurposed for recovery court.
Well,
And the way, we budgeted here $35,000 a vehicle.
so these are brand new,
Yes.
okay.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, a couple of years ago, when we equipped the ACOs, we bought 2 used vehicles, so
I'm all about that.
we'll be shopping.
Okay.
For that one, community service, I'm not sure about the assessors. They're not highway miles. They're stop and start miles. And so he probably needs a new vehicle with a fresh transmission and all that.
I don't know if this is the right time, but I want to say that, when you get those, or when the school budget was talking about vehicles for the SROs, I'm thinking, hey, the biggest deterrent is that thing that says Hamblen County Sheriff on it, and a light on there. I don't care. The other side may be blank, and there may be only one red light, but golly, what a deterrent for me. And I'm thinking, how new does that vehicle? Because, well, I'm just saying that, just to let you know, that I just don't know that, well, anyway, that's a thought, that these vehicles that we're going to repurpose, well, if they get them from home to school, and heck, if there was a bad guy, I mean, they've got the radios now, I mean, you'd press a button and there'd be 15 people there, whether his car moved or not. I may be wrong, but that's just my thought process.
Last time we came in, we got the 5 vehicles because the price increased for the next year.
Yes.
Once we got those 5 vehicles were surplus.
Okay, and that means we can hang on to them, or?
They're gone.
They're gone.
They're sold and we got cash.
But
Oh,
for
okay.
future.
Right, if we knew this was gonna be the case, we could have held on to some of those cars.
Okay,
But at that time, it wasn't, so we surplus them.
okay. We're getting down to pennies, so we gotta, okay.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second? Who was the second? Mike Reed, second. Okay, do we have any other further discussion?
On the animal control vehicle, I just have a problem with putting a new vehicle there How many miles is he putting on the vehicle?
The vehicle that we bought that he's driving, the Explorer, we paid less than $15,000 for back 2 years ago. So we would look for something.
Any other discussion?
Okay, question. If we paid $15,000 for his last time, and we're looking at $35,000 for the other 3 new vehicles, can we reduce that to $120,000 rather than $140,000?
We could. Now, if, let's say you keep it, I mean, any money that's not spent just goes back.
Goes back in the
pot.
general fund, right?
Yeah. So, either way is fine.
Question, how do you keep from spending that full amount? I mean, who's responsible for looking for the vehicle
Yeah.
and not, not spending?
Greg would look for it. I would have to okay it.
Okay.
Question, sir? Is it a bidding process for it, out of curiosity, sir?
Depends, if we buy off the state contract, they've already done the bidding. If we buy a used vehicle, there's a different set of standards. It's based a lot on the Kelly Blue Book, so it's a different process.
Thank you.
I mean, because with the animal control officer, wouldn't a van kind of be better than?
That, we tried that.
You did?
That
Okay.
didn't work.
So
Any
then
other discussion?
you're just looking like a Ford Explorer or something that has, okay. Wow.
Call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Coshaw,
Aye.
120.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Now, that's on the full amount? Hee-haw. What happened to your? Okay. No.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
No.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
No.
Kyle Walker,
No.
4 no, motion passes.
Motion passes.
Next is the $60,000 for the impound lot that planned for behind the Oak Tree Plaza building. $60,000 comes from the general fund, $20,000 comes from the drug fund for $80,000 for the project. That's a project that we'll have to bid.
So, sir,
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Tim Horner. Any discussion? Ms. Howe?
so that's really the fencing, and then an office building or some kind of a,
The biggest cost will be the grade work.
oh,
Be the grade work and the rock.
okay.
And then you put and then you put concrete pad and the building on it and the fence around it.
So it'll be just rock, not asphalt? Okay. Okay,
Mr. Richards, you have something?
That answered my question.
Okay.
okay.
Any other questions?
How many cars will that be able to hold? Are you thinking?
The dimension's 100, I think, and I've got the correct, but it's like 125 by 150. That is cut down quite a bit from what we've got now that we rent from the city.
Now, how big of a building you putting on it?
It's like a 20 by 30, 3-bay garage.
So it'd be able to hold 3,
Excuse
you
me.
could possibly put more than 3 vehicles inside if you had to.
You could, that'd be some of our seized vehicles that we can put them inside, motorcycles and stuff that we sell. We have in the past left that stuff sit outside.
Right.
And it absolutely runs it. We get no
Right.
resale value for it at all.
Right.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman.
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
All right, next is the proposal on the money for the animal shelter expansion. Now, this is a two-piece proposal. One is a $100,000 donation to the building fund. And we would only, my thought is, we would only contribute that money. It wouldn't be the first money, is what, I guess, they need to raise some money before we give them that money. And they're committed to raising money. Then the second 100,000 is, I got this idea from the way we do state grants with matches is, or we'll do a 50-50 match, or, well, it's a dollar for dollar match. You raise 25,000, we'll give you 25,000, or up to $100,000. So that's what's behind this request.
We have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Cutshaw, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Ahern. We're open for discussion.
So just to clarify, sir, 100,000 is our match with the city.
Correct. The city's already given them 100,000.
So our match is 100,000. The other 100,000 is if they raise.
Correct.
So if they don't raise 25, we're going to give them 25.
Correct.
So our maximum following through is 200,000.
Correct.
Okay.
If they raise it.
If they raise it.
The 100,000 on our end and the cities, that's for the building fund, correct? So Commissioner Horner had an idea, instead of a whole building, just maybe purchase a pod, like the school systems do, or a shell and a concrete floor, because you're going to have to clean it out somehow, and I don't know all that. So who determines the 200,000 for the building? How's it spent? Is that, do we determine that, or?
I think their board would determine that. I've got 2 appointments to that board, so we would keep a close eye on it. And, but I think before we release the money, we'd have them come and tell us how they're going to spend it.
Any more discussion?
Yes, Mayor, your point right there, release any of this money or just the,
Not release it until they've committed.
they've committed
They've got
with,
an idea.
they've got an idea, and then we can discuss how that's dispersed?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
We're in
folks,
for a maximum of 100,000.
a minimum of 100,000
Minimum of 100.
and a maximum of 200,000.
Okay.
On matching, that's right. That's right. So that's what I meant, the matching part was 100,000, yes, with our committed 100,000.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to address the phased portion of that with our amendment, or with our motion?
I'm okay. I think I'm comfortable with that. Where they
Okay. I'll amend.
a certain level? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, you just said it, just restate what you said that,
Yeah, what he said.
The minimum is.
That's all it is.
Let's play back the video.
Go to the video on that.
Now, I think the idea is to amend the motion to, before we release any funds, that they bring these plans to us. Is that what you're?
with committed funds on their end before we release funds on our end.
So we don't vote on this motion today?
We do to put, just have it in the budget, but just because it's in the budget doesn't mean we spend it.
So, if I'm understanding that, what you're saying is, here's 100,000, that's as good as where we're with the city there. Now, the next money, you better show us something. Is that what you're saying?
That's not what the mayor's saying.
No, I would say the whole 200.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
It's like, I'll pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today kind of thing.
Okay.
So do I need to amend my motion to
If you would,
reflect?
please. I think that'd be safe and
I
that would
will
take care of
amend my
us.
motion that we fund this budget with evidence that they are committed prior, their financial commitment prior. How do we state that? Somebody help me.
Matching end.
No, not the matching, then even on the front end is what
Okay.
the mayor is. The actual first $100,000 that we're committing, that they show us that they are financially committed into this expansion. Somebody help
Mr.
me
Chairman,
with it.
now, they just had a fundraiser, so this will not go in effect till after,
Was it for a building program or for something else?
well, they did for $98,000. They was trying to raise $98,000 to fix the walls inside of it up there. It was on Channel 10 News and,
Well, this is for an expansion,
okay. So,
not to upkeep the building they have for
Okay.
an expansion.
so I just want to make sure that none of the fundraising they've been doing will,
For maintenance and
yeah,
restoration.
for
it's
maintenance
all
or anything like this.
new-
It'll be for
new
expansion
facility.
only, right?
Well, let's hear the rest of the story. Did they get the 98? Oh, okay.
Any other discussion? Mr. Walker?
My question is, if they raise $100,000, we give them $100,000, it's almost $200,000 to build a building.
A lot of money.
We're building a building over here at the maintenance shop for $30,000. We're building a whole lot, and you're saying most of that $80,000 is for grade work. A 3-car garage bay, you said it was gonna be how big?
125 by 150.
20 by 30. That would be big enough for 10 more kennels. At a third of the cost of what we're talking about giving them. Could we put in here that they have to spend their $100,000 first? Then we'll cover up to $100,000 over the cost of the building. Because if we say they raise $100,000, we're gonna give them $100,000. Once we give it to them, it's theirs, right? So, I can make an elaborate building for $200,000. Why not let them spend their $100,000 first, and then if they spend $125,000, we only have to match it $25,000. But, how elaborate of a building can we build for $200,000?
They've got, one thing with shelters is disease.
Yeah.
You've got to have certain types of drainage and to make sure that the concrete can't be porous.
Right. I know there's
and
gonna
all
be a
kind
lot of
stuff,
that.
And the air circulation, there's a lot that goes into it. You can build it different
Right.
qualities,
But if we're talking about like you said, a mobile building, that's gonna have to have a lot of that work done to it too, to have a drain system in there and everything else.
Chairman, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm just restating what he said, just to make sure I understand. He said he's going before the board, and he's going to explain and talk to them, make sure they understand what kind of building we're going to be looking at, what kind of building that they may build. We're just approving the budget to money to be there. Does not necessarily mean that we're going to spend it all. Correct.
Okay.
So we're just approving the budget.
Right, and that was my thing, because, I don't want, if they're gonna build something, we don't need to build something that's temporary, this is gonna suffice us for 4 more years, then 4 more years from now, they're coming back saying, well, we gotta build another big building. Need another $200,000.
I think they'll be good stewards of the money. And folks like anybody that we fund, we give it to them on good faith that they're gonna
Yep.
take it
Yep.
and, use it for what it's intended for to the best of whatever the money can buy, so we have to have a certain amount of trust and good faith there, so. Any other discussion? Let's call the roll. Oh, would you want to get a second?
I didn't, I don't, after the amendment, I don't know, or with the additional on.
Did we not get a second?
I'm not certain we did.
Okay, we need a second on the
Second.
amendment.
Yeah, I thought Debbie.
Mr. Harville?
No,
I
it's
think Debbie.
Who was it? Ms. Ahern? Thank you, ma'am. I didn't know we didn't have a second. I am so sorry. Let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
No.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
No.
Motion passes.
Is that 10-2?
The next item is the pickup truck for EMA for emergency management. It's half paid for by state grant, half paid by local funds. And this is the local funds, $41,000.
Yeah.
Not to exceed $41,000.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Ms. Ahern, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Cutshaw seconds. Do we have any discussion? Ms.
Yes.
Howell?
Well, okay, thank you, sir. So 41 is half of the truck?
It's an F-250 to pull their big trailer with two,
Oh, the one that pulls the,
the gators,
Yes.
or the, what do they call them?
Mules.
Mules, yeah, sorry, wrong animal.
Mr. Long, do you,
It's easy to,
that's a big
Commissioner Long
truck.
had some good points on this.
any other discussion? Mr. Walker, did you have something?
No.
I do.
Mr.
I-
Cutshaw.
no,
I
go ahead, Mr.
say,
Hall.
Mr. Long said, that there's a cheaper route to go that would give them the same torque and everything else. So I hope that information gets passed on. 'Cause
Right,
that
so
can-
you talked to Chris about that, right? Wasn't it here? Did he ever call you?
He said he would talk to him, but he never did.
I think, Chairman,
Yes.
I think that we approve this amount with the stipulation of, as Mr. Long suggested, that we look at the gasoline engine and the fact that it is easier to maintain the maintenance on it. Any other points on that, Commissioner Long?
Well, he's gonna take it and use it for daily use, is that correct? The cost of running that diesel daily use is,
Right.
you're,
Yeah.
it's,
Let's put a
if
stipulation
you look at the
on it.
price of diesel fuel, you're almost $1 and something difference in a gallon. That was my concern.
Right.
And I don't know how many times they pull a trailer.
Put the restriction on it, it's for gasoline.
Let's do it.
That's exactly, put a gas pickup truck.
Put the restriction on it.
Commissioner Ahern, motion, I second you, amend your
Ms.
motion.
Ahern, you want to amend that motion to a gasoline engine?
I'll amend a motion to a gasoline engine.
Mr. Cutshaw?
Second.
We have the amendment to a gasoline engine. We'll call the roll when you're ready.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
No.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
One no, motion passes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, next is $25,000 for replacement of HVAC units. This is something we've done over the last 5 years where maintenance, Terry Myers has money in his budget. We always have HVAC units that go out during the year, and he uses this money to replace them.
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion. Second, Mr. Richardson?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna continue to wear long pants and an extra jacket. By this time in the evening, we do not need to be super cooled. But anyway, that's my comment.
Point taken. Let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
Next item is $50,000 for architectural, structural, and engineering services to assess the balcony on the south end of the historic building. It needs some care. We need to evaluate it and see exactly what needs to be done.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Walker, motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Horner. Any questions, discussion?
One question, sir.
Yes, Mr. Cutshaw.
Yield to Mr. Huntsman.
Mr. Who?
Huntsman.
Is it $50,000 just to have someone come do an engineer on the balcony?
Well, this is money that we've budgeted this year and not just didn't get it done. This is just to make sure we have enough.
This is a lot of money for.
Yeah, for
someone to come
looking
and
at.
Look it over and
That's.
not gonna spend your money on it.
You
We
should
go
go
out there and
around
knock
and
that
look
out
at
in
it.
the afternoon.
Yeah, and, I mean, Joe, I haven't priced it, but this will cover it. And then what we don't spend will stay in the fund.
Now, when you say this will cover it, because we can look, see.
To cover the assessment,
Yee-hee.
just the assessment, not because we don't know what's going to happen, whether we have to replace it. And it's on the historic registry, so how do we replace it?
Oh, my
and
gosh.
all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Keep that thing in it.
And that'll be cheaper than having it fall on somebody's head.
This is true.
Any other discussion? Mike Richardson?
Since this is that kind of money, it's a professional service, will you have to ask for an RFQ or?
We'll do an RFQ. Well, I mean, we did an RFQ on architects for the health department, so we can use that same evaluation and select from there.
Let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
And the next item is for architectural services for the health department building. This was the contract amount with Barbara McMurray for both the health department part and the 9,000 square feet for the office space.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Got a second, Ms. Ahern. Any discussion or questions? Let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
No.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
One no, motion passes.
Motion passes.
The last, there's one more. That's all right. This $21,000 for document imaging for the jail. And it's a project, we've had a proposal, but the price came in, we're gonna have to bid it. And it's around $40,000 to scan all the documents in the jail. And so you don't have to move them all. And so this will cover part of it, and then we'll have money left over in the jail budget for where we have vacancies in staff. And so we'll take the rest of it from there later on in the budget process. But this will get us some seed money to start and to bid it.
Motion to approve.
Have a
Second.
motion for Mr. Horner. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Ms. Ahern. Any discussion? Let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshall,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We do have, also in your budget book, there's $1,500 for new chairs for planning. We can just adopt that as you adopt the budget and you not have to vote on that. And then we have $35,000 for a new roof for the amphitheater. That was what, we rejected all the bids in committee yesterday, and we'll rebid that. But if you want to vote on that, we can do that, or just include it in the budget vote.
$15,000 for.
1,500.
1,500, thank you. Okay.
Why did we reject the bid? You told me I can't.
There's just one bidder.
Okay. And he couldn't answer some questions that.
That was the other bidder that,
Okay,
Okay.
that dropped out.
okay.
Okay, let's talk health insurance. Okay, this gives you this kind of sets the table for the health insurance. If you'll follow me, follow the numbers on this. Beginning this fiscal year, we had a reserve of $945,000 in our self-insurance fund. The actuary that we've had do studies has recommended that we have about $1 million in the self-insurance fund as a reserve. So we felt we were in pretty good shape. Well, our expenses have been $4.5 million in claims, with revenue from the premiums paid of around $3.4 million. So that's $1.1 million, which is more than what we had in reserves. So that's when we came and asked for infusion of twice. One was in this year's budget of $260,000. Then we came back and asked for $600,000 to add to the health insurance fund. We anticipate, based on claims from the last few weeks, that we'll finish the year with a $704,000 balance. And our goal when we did the $600,000 infusion was a $500,000 balance. So the more money there, the better. So we anticipate starting next year with $704,000 in the reserve, with our consultant, Cheryl Morgan, is estimating that we will have expenses of at least $4.2 million in claims. Now, the revenue stream, the increase in premiums, will generate $4.4 million, which would help us rebuild the reserve to $948,000. So the plan I'm getting ready to show you would get us to this point, to where we've restored our reserves to almost $1 million. So here's the plan. It's to increase the premiums. And if you look at on the number columns, these are monthly premiums. These are monthly total premiums. Currently, we pay $520.91 for an employee only. Employee only, it would go to $750, which is $229 increase. Employee plus spouse would go from $1,093 a month to $1,567 a month. That's $474. Employee plus child would go from $952 to $1,371, and that's $419. And then family would go from $1,579 to $2,272. Now that's the total premium, total premium. Now, here's how we would share it with the employee, is currently, the top group is the employee share, and then the bottom group is the county share. Currently, the employee pays nothing for their health insurance. So we've been paying 100% of it. So they would start paying $25 a paycheck, or $50 a month, which is 7% of the premium, of the new premium. The employee plus child, and employee plus spouse and the family, currently, they all pay 15% of the premium. The county pays 85%. That would stay the same. Now, the difference is, all right, per month, all right, for employee only, they would pay $50 a month. They pay nothing now. The employee plus child would pay $68 more per month. So that'd be what, $34 per paycheck? Employee plus child would be $62 more per month for $31 a paycheck. And then family would be $102 more per month for $51 per paycheck. Or at the county share is at the bottom of the page, where or at the county would pay 93% of the health insurance premium, and it would cost the county $179 a month for the employee. Increase of $179. Employee plus spouse would increase $406. Now, this is what the county's paying. And employee plus child is $356 more. Now, these are increases. And then the employee plus family is $590 a month more. Okay, so by fund, this is where the cost, this is cost to the county. Cost to the county is the general fund. It'll cost us $855,000 more in the general fund. In sanitation fund, it'd be $96,000 more, and highway fund $138,000 more, for a total of $1,090,000 more. So that would, this plan would restore our reserve to just under $1 million. So it's not cheap, but we haven't had an increase in premiums in 8 years.
Wow.
Since we went self-funded.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Wayne? And I wasn't here when this, wasn't on the commission, but when we went self-insured compared to state insurance.
We had our own plan. We weren't on the state plan. But go ahead.
Could the county go on the state plan if we had to, if something happened?
We can. And the idea behind, we started just some history is we started the employee health clinic. We started it about a year, maybe a year and a half before we went self-funded, knowing that we were going self-funded. We started saving money for that reserve. And it's been a great benefit for the employees. It's probably been the best move that we've made since I've been mayor, and it's just that we had a really bad year as far as claims go.
Thank
you. So, Mr. Chairman, that's the plan for health insurance.
Mr. Chairman, just a question, Mayor. That's their guesstimation. It couldn't be that much, right? As far as what they're projecting.
As far as?
Claims.
Claims. That's their projection, yes.
And it could be a lot less, maybe.
Could be less, yeah. It could be more. A lot of it depends on it, to be totally frank, on cancer cases.
Right.
And you have one premature baby, You're done.
Maybe we should know this, Chairman. How many employees does this entail? I mean, countywide. I'm just curious to what,
We have 500 covered lives in our plan.
500
That's employees and
Right.
dependents.
right,
We have right at 500.
500?
And like the health clinic, we have 500 lives. We're partner with the city on that. They have about 1,000.
And that includes the sanitation and road department, everybody? Okay.
Library and landfill.
Okay. Have you discussed this with other department heads as far as the pending look at this?
Not yet. So that's, and then, well, no, that's the next step. If you guys approve it, that's the next step is communication. And then we've already communicated with employees on the pharmacy benefit management change. We sent a letter out last
Right.
week. and then-
So, the way we see this, then, this is the proposal, and there's not much of an answer without even more money, is to share this cost across the board.
Correct. Now, let's see, I had Wendy Williams, who's our HR manager. She surveyed other government entities, and Amanda, you may have to help me with this. I know landfills at 15% as far as the employee, cities at 15. Morristown Utilities, what is it? You know what the share is? Is it 15?
Yeah, I think it's right around that 15
Yeah, so
pay period or
as
something.
far as
Yeah.
comparable organizations, it's right around that. And Rodney, do you know what the school systems? I've got that, but I don't have it in front of me.
You talking about the,
How much the employees percentage?
they pay like a flat fee, 10,000 something on the family coverage for the employee.
And I have one other question. For example, the employee going to $25 a paycheck, is that, what they call it, when you do your biometrics, is that with biometrics, or is this, it doesn't matter if you have, there was an incentive, I think, if you did that, and I didn't, previously there was.
I have the email that Mindy
Okay.
sent. 911 the employee pays 15%. So
Okay.
it's the same, but 911 pays full dental and vision for their employees. City of Morristown, the employees pay 12%, and the city pays all dental and vision. Douglas Cherokee ranges from 6 to 30% depending on the plan, and then they pay 5% of dental and vision. The school system, employee pays nothing, employee and child, the employee pays 22%, employee and spouse is 40, and family is 20. The health department, which is on the state's plan, the employee pays 20, and Morristown Utilities she has 5 or 10% employee only, I guess depending maybe on the plan.
And one thing too with this plan is that right now we offer both, it's Blue Cross Blue Shield networks, and there's the S network and the P network, and we would only offer the S. We have about 25 employees who have the P, and they're mostly at the landfill, and we'll no longer offer the P.
If we're giving the 5% pay raise, the additional money that the employee's gonna have to pay, how much will that come off that 5%? You understand what I'm saying?
It's a bad deal.
Yeah, it all depends. But let's say it's a $1,000 raise. So, let's see. And it would cost you $600. Would be 400 net.
hard pill. It's a tough pill to swallow, and it's where we're at.
Well, most of the time with the school system, you swallow that pill every time.
Amen.
You get a raise and it takes most of it for the,
Make less money than you made the year before with the pay raise. That has happened. Do we need to vote on this tonight? Okay, I need a motion.
I make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Long and Mr. Richardson. I think we've discussed this. It's depressing, but it's reality. Let's call the roll.
Okay, Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passes.
Okay, let's talk about pay increases to pay for that health insurance. All right, and what's in the budget document are 5% raises for general government employees, 5% for sanitation, 5% for highway, 5% for sheriff's department administrative staff, 10% for post-certified law enforcement officers, and 10% for corrections employees. On the corrections employees, it gets the starting wage for the COs and for those 41, not all 41, but for the new ones, the new corrections officers, the floor guys and gals, takes them to $17 an hour to start. And then for patrol, it takes them to $19 an hour to start. So, and what that does is here's the cost per fund and how many employees are impacted by it. And you'll see that it's at the very end of your budget document for that fund. And so now the 47 employees, help me, we talked about that today. What was, current employees, yeah. Under the post-certified and 56 under corrections, that's those are current employees, not the new corrections officers. They're in the budget at $17.
Do we have a motion?
Right here.
Cutshaw. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Ahern? We're open for discussion.
What does 1% pay raise to everybody amount to, dollar-wise?
Hold on, she's calculating. You want the cost, Rodney, the cost to the county, or?
If you gave, for instance, I'm just saying, if you gave a 6% pay raise.
What would that be?
1% is $97,619.
That's
everybody.
across all funds.
That's the general fund.
Okay.
You know, I shared this with Commissioner Cutshaw. I was kind of a night owl, and I was just reading some news articles last week. And I know we're not in a bidding war, we're not trying to keep up with the Joneses, but Knox County starting their corrections officers from day one, as young as 18 years old, but from day one at a little over 51,000. I know we can't do that, and we're not going to try, but that just tells you what we're kind of up against when we're trying to hire these folks to work in the jail. And there's seldom any good press that comes out of the jail to lure these people into work, so we need to keep that in mind.
The $17 an hour for a starting jailer at 4 days, 4 on shifts is $37,000. That would be their starting pay.
What is it now? 15?
25,
So this would take 17.
33.
Any more discussion?
Starting pay for a patrol officer would be 41.5.
Okay, let's call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
Yes.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes twice.
Okay, and lastly is just a discussion on more money for paving, and discussed a couple of meetings ago, a wheel tax. And so, here's the wheel tax charges in neighboring counties, and Hawkins County heads the list at $67, and Cocke County and Granger County do not have one. So we're toward the bottom at $27, and so there you see how we compare to our neighbors. Now, here's an idea, and this is an idea to move some revenue around from other funds. It includes a wheel tax increase and getting that started. So the first step is that we move interest earnings, that right now, all of our interest earnings goes to debt service. With interest rates increasing, we budgeted this year that we're in $260,000 for interest earnings, which is about, very conservative amount based on prior year. Who knew the interest rates would climb to what they are now? Well, we're going to end up finishing the year with about $1.6 million in interest earnings in debt service, which is a good thing. It's a great thing. And next year, if interest rates hold steady, and all indications are that they will for at least another year, is that we'll collect about $2 million in interest. So this idea is to move $1.2 million of interest earnings into the Highway Capital Projects Fund. This is the budget that was passed out to you today, the Highway Capital Projects Fund. So $1.2 million in interest earnings would go into that fund for 1 year. Then raise the wheel tax by $23 to make it $50 effective. It would be effective November 1st. It takes 2 votes by the county commission with 2/3 majority, which is 10 votes, to pass it. And then it'll take about 30 days for the county clerk's office to get geared up to take it, payment of it with car registrations. So that would be $23 would go to $50 effective in November. So we would budget for this year, for 2024, next year, the budget we're considering, budget $950,000 of wheel tax money to the Capital Projects Fund, the Highway Capital Projects Fund. And then budget from there on out, you budget about $1.4 million for paving. That would go, and that's the $23 of the wheel tax. The $27 would stay in the general fund. We would move the purchasing of the patching equipment out of highway and move it to the Highway Capital Projects Fund. And then we would move, talked to Barry today. We agreed to reduce the trucks from 4 to 2. And so that would go to the Highway Capital Projects Fund. So all that equipment would be bought out of the Highway Capital Projects Fund. And then we would move $500,000 of local option sales tax, which sales tax collections have been very good. Take it from sanitation and move it to the highway budget to balance that budget. Because even though you move, the patching equipment, you move the 2 trucks to the Highway Capital Project Fund, you're still at a deficit. And so we need $500,000 of sales tax to balance the budget. Actually, it leaves about $356,000 in fund balance. at the end of the year. So here's one idea.
How much wheel tax, how much would that increase it per vehicle now?
$23. It would increase it $23.
To $50 would increase.
$50 total, it'd be an increase of 23.
Okay.
And like you said, $2 a month.
$2 a month. By that proposal.
Now, one question. When this commission raises this wheel tax and we say that's going to go to the fund, can the next commission change where that wheel tax goes to?
Yes, they can.
When does the commission change again?
Well, 2026 would be the next election, and hopefully that commission would adhere to what we're doing here. This is a bold move if we get to do this to fund roads. And for anybody to mess with it afterwards would not be wise. But we can't, we cannot forecast the future, though, either, about financial difficulties that anybody may have, and things may get in that roads are not the most important thing. I'm just saying, it could happen.
And I think you've come up with a good plan here because, you know, like we've said before, we didn't get into this overnight.
No.
And we're not going to get out of it with a snap of your finger, you know. And when you look at the cost per month, you know,
$2.
I think it's.
Well, Mr. Chairman, and on that, you know, $33, if you take it up $33, $10 more, that's another $620,000. And again, it's a little over $1 a month.
I think right now, with this plan here, if I'm correct, we figured it, he would be able to asphalt in this fund here, what, 6 to 7 miles?
Would be up to $2 million, so at $300,000 a mile.
Well, that's with him preparing it.
Oh, that's right, he's preparing it, that's right.
I'm a little off on the price because he done McBride Road 2
That's right.
miles for $300,000.
You're right,
So,
you're right.
you know, if he's preparing it, we're buying him the extra crew,
Right,
batching crew, so he should be
Right.
the one preparing it,
yeah,
not an outside service, correct?
that's
So-
what he proposed.
Now, the long-term, the long-term idea in this is, are the interest earnings are something we can't depend on.
That's right.
Okay? So we have to take advantage of the market now and what's going on now. And that's to basically do it for a year and while we start collecting the wheel tax. And I've talked to Barry about this, is that the $950,000 is, you don't spend it next year. We need to bank that money so that he has it in the late summer, fall of '24. Yeah, '24, so he has some money to pave with. This fall, he won't have any money to pave with. In the spring, he will, but in the fall, he won't. We'll have, I think we were talking, October is when he can order that equipment. He'll have the money in the bank to pay for that equipment.
Mr. Mayor, will he have money to prepare roads this fall?
I think yes, without this revenue, I think so. Yes.
We asked him that and he said
I
yes.
think he did.
Did he say, I'm sorry,
No, please.
did he say when that equipment would be available, or are we gonna be waiting like this truck deal a year from now?
I asked him that question today, and he said he didn't think it was anything like the trucks. He said, but it could be up to 6 months. Could be 4 to 6 months.
Yeah. Following up with your question, if we don't have that $450,000 truck, and I'd asked him to put the money in the mattress, but heck, I'm looking at maybe we ought to get it, maybe we, you know, but, you know, when we say we're gonna raise that wheel tax and it's going to capital projects, by golly, that better mean, you know, if we can say you buy a gas truck, that better be a road capital project, you know what I mean?
Miss Howe, we can do that right now, but again, we can't make the next commission hold to that.
I understand that, I understand.
Now-
Well, it's like this 1.2 million is only for a year.
Right, right.
I mean, we're.
And then you reevaluate it based on what is interest.
Good point, good point.
And now, let me explain a little bit about why the highway capital projects is involved in all this and not just put it all in the highway fund. Is there's a maintenance of effort in the highway fund. It's called the 5-year average. And of your local money, any local money you put in highway, you cannot reduce it under what you've appropriated over the last 5 years. And we historically have put very little local money into our highway budget. It's been gas tax. And so what this budget does, though, is it significantly increases our local effort by putting that $500,000 in local option sales tax. So we're raising our maintenance of effort for highways, but I think you guys are making the commitment for roads. And so that doesn't concern me much because you guys are making that commitment.
Will this $500,000 out of the local sales tax be every year?
Yes, it'll have to be.
It's just not a
That's what we
once
already
year.
have.
It's not a one-time
Mr.
thing.
Cutshaw, you have something?
Oh, that was where I was going with it, just to make sure, because this is our highway budget, not capital projects budget, correct? Okay.
That's your operations.
Right, and that 500,000 gets us back in the black here, balances that budget where we were 800 and some thousand in deficit, but we're moving the equipment over to capital projects. And now our highway budget is still lacking 300 and some thousand, I think you said.
No, we'll be in the black 3.
Well, I mean, without the addition.
Oh, without the 500, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be in the black, 300 plus, good. Any other discussion? Do we need to vote on this tonight?
If you want to, I mean, this is,
reiterate?
if you want to ponder on it or if you want to vote on it.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the strategy that Mayor Britton has put together as far as the moving of adding the wheel tax and helping our highway projects.
Do we
I
have a
second that motion.
Who was that? Mr. Long seconds it? Yes, sir.
Motion. I mean, discussion. Mayor, do we need to separate the wheel tax from the rest of this? Or will we dive into that later as far as the formality? How do you want to do this? Her motion was to accept your strategy. Do we work out the particulars later?
Then in July, we'll present you a resolution to increase the
Okay.
wheel tax.
All right.
And you have to pass it in July and August.
All right.
So did I do it wrong?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
You did
Okay.
right.
No, the first step is this.
Thank
And
you.
then the next step is the resolution.
Okay.
It's just pennies on the dollar. Pennies.
Let's, call the roll.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Chris Cutshaw,
Aye.
Edna Green,
No.
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
understand.
Aye.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
Yes.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
Motion passes 1-0.
Yes.
Quick question. I don't remember. What is the registration fee it's gonna be coming back onto the? I thought it was 23 something. He says it's 30 some dollars.
I think the total cost will go back to 57, right at $57, and we got a $27 wheel tax now, so it's 30. Who said 30? That's about right.
$84.
Split the baby on it.
You're right.
Say it out loud.
May I comment on what we just did?
You may comment.
Commission, this is one thing, this commission is taking a bold step for our county. It's not, these are tough answers that we're doing here. These are tough questions. But it's a proposal to sustain, roads is our big thing. I just want us all to be on the same page as much as possible. We're trying to move forward. it's really, it's difficult when you look around and you see all the need, and it just seems like it rained heavily this year. So, anyway, I think we made a bold statement tonight.
It has rained, but we've been blessed also with income, so we have to look at both sides of that. Exactly.
And two, try to remember what the citizen survey that we conducted.
Roads.
You know, it was a strong response to spending more money on roads.
Right.
So that was the.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we can look too. I think most people would rather see bill tax than a property tax. And just think, all these apartment buildings that they're building, how many vehicles are gonna be there? As well as all the new houses that we're building, how many vehicles? So right now, it's $62,000 for every dollar. By next year, it could be $85,000 for every dollar.
I like what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, are you,
Just on Thursday, Budget Committee meets on Thursday at 5. That'll be when the Budget Committee will present Draft 2, which will take all that you passed today. We'll put it in the budget document, and then you'll go fund by fund recommending the budget to the full commission. So that'll be Thursday, and the budget vote will be on the 29th at a special call meeting. So those are the last two steps of the budget.
So a Thursday and another Thursday.
ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned.
Bad time.